in seconds, so stand by.
Tables of action, including cash games, high hands, Mega Bad beat jackpots, and exciting tournaments. Bet small and win big with table games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em or 3-card poker with a $5 minimum 7 days a week. PBKC is also your best bet for exciting OTB action from Keeneland, Laurel, Santa Anita, and more. For more info, go to pbkennelclub.com.
On the air since 1977, it's the Steve Kane Show.
All right, it sure is. We are here live. It is the Thursday after Milton, October 10th, 2024. My name is Brian Craig, and this, of course, is Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't have to be on the road here in South Florida, don't. I drove in today, and it was a mistake to drive in. I probably should have stayed home, but, hey, we're a radio station with, responsibility to our community and listeners. But, it was a rough drive in, and this Hurricane Milton, I've been through more hurricanes than I could remember, all right? I've been through so many, I couldn't even begin to remember all the hurricanes I've been through. I've been on the air during hurricanes, before hurricanes, after hurricanes, and all kinds of, and I'm very used to hurricanes. This one is the most unusual hurricane I've ever experienced hitting the state of Florida, and I know a lot of people are telling you that, and it's true, and I'll tell you what's different about it. I've never seen so much death and destruction outside of the hurricane cone. When there's hurricanes coming, we live and die by the hurricane. I shouldn't say die. You know what I mean? That's an expression. But when we get the hurricanes coming towards Florida, we're always looking at the cone. Are we in the cone? How far are we from the cone? And when you're out of the cone, there's like a sigh of relief. I'm out of the cone, and it's safe, and it's, everything's going to be fine. That is not the case in this hurricane. And when I woke up, I didn't really get any sleep last night. I did go to bed really early, fell asleep for a few hours, and then I got up around 11 and was watching the hurricane coverage of Milton, and it was just awful. I saw a lot of it, in the afternoon with the tornadoes. This is really a devastating storm, and here you got Kamala Harris trying to make it political. What a lowlife. I was watching someone yesterday, a very good conservative commentator, and they made a very good point. These two hurricanes, Milton and then Helene, we got kind of like a week of what it would be like under Kamala Harris as president. Can you imagine? Sitting around faking help, not helping but pretending to help. It was having fake Zoom meetings to look like they were involved. It was just pretty scary. But this hurricane, I've never seen tornadoes and death and damage outside of the cone before. And that's caught a lot of people off guard. It really has. Even those of us that have lived in Florida our whole life and have been through dozens of hurricanes. Never seen this. There's always tornadoes with hurricanes. That's not new, okay? There's always tornadoes with hurricanes. We had a hurricane many years ago, and a tornado went down the street and took out all the trees on the street. Tornado. During the hurricane. That's part of it. But what's different about this one is that we had all of these hurricanes outside of the hurricane cone, and they were massive tornadoes. I mean, these were huge tornadoes. It was like in Twister. I'm talking about the original Bill Pullman film, Twister. Now, I haven't seen the remake. Probably just too much CGI to watch. But that's what's just so unusual and scary. And when I got up and took a shower, it was about 1:30 in the morning, and after I got out of the shower and got dressed, I went on my back porch, and the winds, I have a screened-in back porch, the winds were so heavy I couldn't believe, so I went out front, and when I opened up my door, the wind just grabbed my door and threw it open. I could not believe it. And it was pretty brutal. And the drive on the way in which I should not have done. I did not take the Turnpike or I-95. I took 441 all the way from Boca to Palm Beach Gardens, and it's a straight drive, very few lights typically, very little traffic. It's really about the same speed as taking the Turnpike, really. 5 or 10 minute longer drive early in the morning because there's so little traffic on a normal day. But today was different. The further north I got, the closer I got to the radio station, the heavier the winds got. And the winds were hitting my car so hard. I was driving with both hands on the wheel, but the winds were hitting my car so hard, it was pushing me out of the lane into the next lane. It was pretty bad. And a lot, when I drove through Wellington, which had a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes, we were hearing about all these tornadoes and homes being damaged in Wellington. I drove through Wellington where they had all those tornadoes, and I was shocked at how many of the stoplights were completely out because the power's out. And there were some lights out at major intersections like 440. The light may be on now. This is not to be taken as a traffic report, but this is about 30 minutes ago. 30, 40 minutes ago, maybe a little longer, maybe 40 minutes ago, let's say 30 to 40 minutes ago, the entire intersection at 441 in Southern Boulevard, which is a major intersection, all the lights were out, all the stoplights were out. And that gets really dangerous. There was not a lot of traffic on the road, but some people didn't stop. I stopped and I flashed my high beams a few times, but some people were just going on through without stopping. I'm like, oh my goodness. This is crazy. And there were a lot of other lights out, but that was a major one. And I turned onto Okeechobee Boulevard. I took 441 to Okeechobee Boulevard. And I was surprised that the deputies had Okeechobee Boulevard a ways down completely blocked off, barricaded off. I couldn't go east on Okeechobee. I don't know why they had it blocked off. I didn't see an accident. I don't know what was going on there, but, I've had to go another route to get here and all of this. And there's a lot of palm trees and stuff on the road. There's a lot of debris, and you're driving in the dark. A lot of the street lights are out, too, along the way, especially when you get up to Wellington area because the power was out. This is just like I said, 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago. So you can't really see because street lights are out. There's palm trees all over the road, debris, and it was just a mess. It was not a smart idea for me to drive in. And if you do not have to be on the road today, don't. Stay home. At least until they tell you it's okay to drive. And it'll get better. What had happened when I got up, it went out in my front yard about 1:30 a.m. And the winds I was shocked. I mean, they were brutal. I told you, the door got blown open. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to leave for a few hours. So when I left my house around 4:30, and the winds were still there. There were gusts, but they had calmed down a lot. So I said, okay, it's okay to drive in. But the further north I got, the stronger the winds got. And I'm driving. I drove a lot slower than I would normally, of course, because the debris, the lights are out, street lights are out, stop lights are out, and the wind. And but I had my windows up, and I rolled my windows down. I could not believe when I got into Wellington, I don't know what the wind speed is, but I could not believe how heavy the wind was coming into my car just by putting the front windows down. It was pretty brutal. So if you don't have to drive or be on the road today, at least this morning, don't. Because probably if I had to do it over again, I probably would have stayed home. I came in for a couple reasons. One, we're 20-some days away from the election, so that's important, right? I don't want to miss a day so close to the election because there's a lot of big stories I'm going to talk about involving Trump and the election, and there's an incredible new poll out I want to get into, and plus, radio station, you have a certain obligation to your listening area, your listeners, and the community when there's times like this. So, I don't want to wimp out and not be on the air. I've been on the air during so many hurricanes. I've talked about it many times over the years, and it's just part of Florida life. But there's just something different about this one and this hurricane, and I don't know what it is, but there's most definitely something different about it. Now, and I was thinking when I was coming up, and I drove through Wellington, and 441 was completely dark because all the street lights are out. And then when I see the stoplights out, I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, that just sucks, and it's completely dark, And I'm thinking, well, the chances of there being power and internet at the radio station are slim to none. We'll find out. And I am shocked that we have our power at the radio station, and we have the internet at the radio station. The phones are not working, but the phones are down. Checking the phone. The phones are down, so I cannot take your calls, but maybe they'll come on. There's people looking into it. But the phones are down, but we have power. We have internet. Are they working now? No, their phones are down. Okay. So it's just going to be me talking to you, which is fine, There's whole shows in this market, not just the Kaufman show. There's other shows. They do whole shows every day without taking calls. Not because their phones are out of order, but no one bothers to call them. But and believe me, I could do a 6-hour show without taking a single call, and it'll be fine. I got a lot to talk about. Believe me, I prepped. It's one of the reasons I got up and did show prep early today, and I also left early. And I was very surprised at how many of the gas stations were closed. It just seems to me at this point, because we weren't in the cone, more things usually are open. I don't know. Gen Z works in all the gas stations now. Maybe they're just not as tough as the past generation of Floridians. I don't know. But no, stay home if you don't have to be on the road this morning in Florida. And I am in really shock at the death and damage outside the hurricane cone. And I know a lot of people will be talking about that today, because later today we're going to start to see it and get tragic numbers, and terrible things are going to be reported today. And for that to happen outside of the hurricane cone that is what is unusual. That's what's unusual. And these houses in this area, you've seen this in St. Lucie County and in Wellington, where they were just hit hard by these tornadoes. And tornadoes are the worst because they come up out of nowhere and they disappear as quickly as they pop up. They're completely unpredictable and people can't forecast them. But I will tell you this. Yesterday, there was one of our local meteorologists, and they were saying that it was going to be worse, that we could get the worst winds, even though we're not in the cone. And I was saying, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. He was absolutely right. I'm going to say his name because he was right. He's my favorite. The reason I didn't say his name yesterday is because he's my favorite meteorologist in all of South Florida. And I don't know if I'm supposed to have a favorite meteorologist. And I didn't want to disparage him because he's brilliant. He's great. He's the best on TV I've ever seen. And when he said that even though we're outside of the cone in Palm Beach County, he said, and Broward too, we could get some of the worst winds because we're south of the hurricane. And yesterday I said, that's crazy. I thought maybe they were just trying to get viewers to watch them. I was wrong. He was 100% right. I'm going to tell you his name. Steve Weigel. Okay, Steve Weigel. He is my favorite TV weatherman. I watch him every day, my wife and I, even on good days when there's not hurricanes coming. Steve Weigel, I've met him before, and he is the best television meteorologist I've ever seen in South Florida, and I'm talking about all the way down to Miami, Steve Weigel. And he was so right when he said the day before yesterday that even though we're out of the cone in Palm Beach and Broward, we could get some of the worst winds being on the southern part of the hurricane. I thought that was nuts. I know that part of the hurricane has the strongest winds, but when you're so far out of it, I did not imagine it could be an issue. All right, listen, we're going to take our first break. My name's Brian. You're listening to Florida. Yeah, Steve Weigel. So I'm apologizing to Steve Weigel. I love Steve Weigel. I always have. In fact, I'm such a fan of his. When my daughter, who was here when she was a little girl, we went and watched Steve Weigel did a live broadcast from Meisner Park in Boca. We went and met him and watched him do it. So he's a good guy. I love Steve Weigel. He is the best. And I'll never question him again. That's for sure, because he was so right and I was so wrong. All right, we're going to take our first break of the day. I'm Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Show. We are live this Thursday, October 10th, the morning after Hurricane Milton. I'll just throw that so people know what live. Milton was last night, early this morning, still going on now, but we're here live. We'll be right back. Did you guys get hit hard? Did you get hit hard at your house? It was a mess in Wellington.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh! Which way did you come in?
Turnpike. It was actually real dead.
I didn't take the Turnpike or 95 because I thought if there was an accident, you'd be stuck because the exits are far apart.
There was nothing on there.
Really?
Like it was just a straight. I've never seen it so dead.
Maybe I'll take it home. The thing about the phones, I don't understand because the internet's working.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
are they on a different server? Can you reboot it? Is there a different?
They are on a different server. Vic said he's gonna try to reset it from his end.
Okay.
See if it works. So I told him to let me know what's going
Okay.
on. So if you see things, I'll go
Okay.
watch it too. If anything like pops up, that's him probably.
Okay, so Joe Thomas, but they didn't tell you if he's coming in at all.
No, I think this is just a live read, Joe Thomas.
Okay.
But yeah. No, I got home yesterday and took a nap, and then I woke up and I'm like, all right, like still a little bit windy, and then my mom's just going, Mikey, there's a tornado. I'm like, what? And she goes, tornado, like just detect like 5 minutes from here. I'm like,
Yeah.
So I ran downstairs. My dad wasn't still home; he was still coming home from work, so I just put gloves on, grabbed the shutter, and I just started.
Oh, really? You know, I thought about putting mine up after you texted me, and I'm like, forget it. I have hurricane windows,
Yeah.
but I just put the shutters on because the hurricane windows, they don't break, but they crack.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
Oh yeah.
So,
Redo that, yeah.
and it just to get they're custom windows. So if one cracked, it's so expensive to replace it. It's better just to put the.
Just protect it, yeah.
I know it seems stupid, but it increases the value of the house. And you know.
It's true. You know, like a lot of people, like we have a family friend in Tampa, and their house got wrecked by the last hurricane, and this one we're like, hey, look, we offered for them to come down and save it for us. I'm like,
Yeah.
like you need to get
Oh,
out
and they
of Tampa.
didn't?
They didn't, and they're like,
Oh, my gosh.
They're like, I think we'll be fine, blah blah. And
Yeah,
they
right.
didn't have hurricane-proof windows or shutters. It's like they were after.
That's
They
crazy.
came in after it wasn't required to have shutters, so it's like.
That's insane.
I mean, I'm sure they're fine. We're gonna text them, I guess, today and just see what's going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know that are in those areas, they said it was
Yeah.
okay. So I hope they're.
So I'm curious why the internet works, the Wi-Fi works, and the phones don't work because the phones are internet.
Yeah,
Base.
maybe it's AT&T or some sort
Maybe.
of power outage, but like you said.
Usually, phone lines somewhere they're landline. They those never go out. They're on a different
Server.
power grid.
Yes.
The phones are on a different power grid than the regular electricity.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Keep waiting for Vic, see what's going on.
They probably won't come back on. I was surprised how much power was off in Wellington.
Yeah, no, like last night, like late last night's when the power started going off for us.
Yeah.
Our power was fine all day, and then late last night I just kept hearing the power go off, and the air conditioning kept kicking off and back on. It was bad.
Somebody sent me glue for the screw on the mic. Can you believe that? I don't know why they sent combs. They sent me 2 combs. Do they think I have lice? This is somebody. Okay, let's see what they sent me. Oh, we're back.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Boca on 95.
I'll show you next break what they sent me.
Lauderdale on 96.9 FM and anywhere in the world.
All right, 21 minutes after the hour. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We are back. It is Thursday, October 10th. Milton is, well, it's still off the coast up there in the Space Coast area. We are on the air live. Now, if you're in the state of Florida and you've been impacted by this hurricane and you have damage to your roof, call Tom Laporta. Now, remember, this number rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone. He's helped our listeners during past hurricanes. His response time is fast. He's a good MAGA guy. He'll take good care of you. Tom Laporta's number, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. That's 954-604-4602. So, Tom Laporta, Laporta Contracting. Make sure you tell him I told you about him. Yeah, so, coming on the air after hurricanes, everyone was telling me not to come in. And when I say everyone, I don't mean just like my wife and my daughter and stuff. It's like I'm getting messages from listeners, don't come in, don't come in. When you're on a radio station, if you can, you want to be on the air live for the community. I mean, you got to do that. You got to have some responsibility. And when I was new, and there was a hurricane, one of the ways that I got myself on the air, I was on the air before, but I got elevated because I went and worked at a radio station when a hurricane was hitting. And all the guys that were like my age at the time, they're like, I'm not going there. I'm going to stay home. I'm not going in. What are they going to do? And they were like my age at the time, been in the business a long time. And they had a couple guys like me. I was like, 19 or something. And I'll do it. And we had to be on the air. And so I got on the air. And I was on the air for like 10 hours. And that's how I kind of got elevated on the air. So when these things, I remember these guys that thought that they were above coming in after the hurricane. It just, and they their houses were not even hit, right? And some of them were gay. They didn't even have like kids or a wife at home to take care of. I'm like, are they crazy? You got to have, why are you not coming in? So I won't do that. And I've seen people do this. There was one hurricane when my wife and I first bought the house we live in now. And we had a bad hurricane hit right after we moved in. And it did not the house didn't have hurricane windows on it and did not have hurricane shutters. So, because we had just moved in and the people that lived in the house before us never got those things, which is crazy. So we went to my mother-in-law's. And there was a cop that lived across the street. And this guy, he wouldn't go to work. He had a cruiser in his driveway, and he was a young guy too. He was in his 20s, and I couldn't. He wouldn't go. He told us we were getting ready for the hurricane, and we were talking to him, and we said, "Oh, obviously you got to work during the hurricane." Here in Palm Beach, I think every deputy is on duty. I couldn't believe how many cops I saw everywhere. Palm Beach Sheriff's Office is everywhere. I mean, there's a huge police presence. I heard the sheriff on TV last night that they're working 12-hour shifts. They got everybody working, and he was sending strong messages to looters: "Don't loot, or else." But anyway, this cop across there, I can't remember what department he was from. It's been a long time, but we went over and talked to him, and he's like, "Well, I'm not going in." And I was very surprised about that because he was a police officer. He wasn't going in, and the hurricane was a bad one. This is the hurricane. I can't remember which hurricane it was. Might have been Wilma. Might have been before Wilma. I don't remember. I think it was before Wilma. But anyway, it was a bad hurricane, a bad one, and he didn't go in. He called and told them he wasn't reporting for duty, a police officer with a cruiser in his driveway. And I don't know, about 2 hours later, during the hurricane, his sergeant came over in his cruiser with a tow truck, fired him at his house, and towed his cruiser away. I couldn't believe it. And then we came to find out that it wasn't his house, it was his girlfriend's house that he was living at. And a couple weeks later, she dumped him because she's a cop groupie. And then like a month later, she had another cop living with her. So she's a cop groupie, But I couldn't believe it. And there was another guy if anybody, the phones aren't working, so I can't ask you guys who this is. The only thing I can remember, he was one of the anchors in Miami. Oh. And he's black. I cannot remember his name. An anchor in Miami. And this was during Hurricane Andrew. And it was one of the Miami stations. It was not WSVN, but it was one of the Miami stations. I think I know who it is, but there's not a lot of black anchors, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was one of the main anchors on TV in Miami, and during Hurricane Andrew, he refused to come in to broadcast. And he was one of the big guys, and I remember he was there when I was like in middle school, and I was like, why? And he refused to come in. They fired him during Hurricane Andrew. Anybody remember that? You know, so that's not the reason I'm here. I'm not afraid of getting fired, but I just feel like when you're a cop, you're a TV guy, you got a responsibility if you can to make it in. Now, obviously, if we were getting hit hard by the hurricane, this building is a nice building, but I don't know if I'd want to stand next. I don't know if this is a hurricane window next to me or not. Is it? Do you know, Mike? Are these hurricane windows? I wouldn't want to find out. Maybe they are. If they were hurricane windows, I'd be here. But if they're not hurricane windows, I don't think I'd be standing here on the second floor during a hurricane. But I've seen these things happen before, and those guys. I remember those guys, and this is a part of the story that I've told this story, and I left a part of it out, okay? But the person I left out of the story is dead now, so I can talk about it without them harassing me. Well, let me take the break for the bottom of the hour, and then we'll talk about it. And I'm going to get into the politics and the new polls. I just want to get the hurricane stuff off my chest before we break. But I'll share something with you that happened to Steve and I that I've told the story many, many times, but left out a big part because this one guy who's now dead would harass us if I told this part of the story. All right, we'll take our break for the bottom of the hour. My name's Brian. This is Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back.
Making morning radio great again. It's the Steve Kane Show.
Oh, man. I'm amazed that everything's working here, but the phones. I'm in shock. I thought for sure the power would be out here.
Yeah, Vic just texted me saying that Comcast is working on the power outages, so apparently it has, it's probably the whole area.
Oh, the Comcast power's out.
Yeah. So I think that's what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's...
Yeah, but if you can be live, you want to be live, because people are listening, and they expect,
Well, like I said a few days ago, too, any big movies of apocalyptic or big
all the radio
songs,
people are still on there.
People are always
yeah, exactly.
ready to go.
Exactly.
It's like the last line of defense for
it's radio.
Media,
That's right. That's right. But as soon as when I got up to the further north I got, the heavier the winds got for sure.
Yeah, my car was shaking on 95 the second I started. 95
Turnpike. Yeah, Mike took the Florida Turnpike. There were no cars there. It was like the Omega Man. So power, the phones are through Comcast, and Comcast's power is out. So that's why we don't have the phones. That's okay. We'll get through it.
This was...
Oh yeah. So they sent me a long typed letter that I read the first paragraph of. Okay, I mean this is crazy. It's 1, 2, 3, for a 5-page typed letter, okay? They sent me glue for the screw on the microphone, which has not fallen in months.
I was about to say, it's been good now.
They sent me a book about the Kennedy assassination written by a police sniper, and then they sent me 2 combs. I don't know what the combs are for at all. I don't know. They did, and maybe it's in the 5-page letter that I can't read 5 pages. I mean, you know, I read the first paragraph. That's it. And, I did skim through some of the first page. He started telling me how to properly use a microphone, so that kind of annoyed me. You know, I mean, I think I know how to use a microphone. Yeah, telling me how far to stand away from the microphone and all this stuff. I can hear in my headphones. I know how I you know. Oh, just a strange cat.
This was like my friend whose grandma lives down here. This was by her house.
Oh my gosh.
Tornado,
There's a car. Pull that picture back. Let me show. Can I show everybody? Where's this at?
Wellington.
This is in Wellington. This is whose house? This by your grandmother's house?
My friend's grandma's.
Yeah, look at that. See the car? There's the house. There's the car. Was it in front of the house parked?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Let me see if you guys can see it.
House, like their neighbors.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Tornadoes were just dropping like left and right in Wellington. It was insane.
Yeah, that's the area I drove through where the power's out and the street lights are out and stuff. That's the neighborhood.
Luckily, it seems like they were getting some of the power back on when I was driving up, but
yeah, that's what happens.
I think you're talking about Okeechobee as well. I think one of the tornadoes landed there as well, so I think they're probably cleaning up anything.
Yeah.
I think that's why they were like shutting down that area. Cause
I will read the 5-page letter, guys. If somebody writes me a letter, I'm going to read it, but I'm not going to read before I go on the air. It's too much.
especially if it's, you know.
Although I was annoyed telling me how to stand in front of a microphone. There's no particular rule with a microphone because every microphone is different and they do different things and work in different ways. And I don't know if they're talking about this mic or this mic. I don't know. People talk differently, mics work in different ways, and you have different types of microphones for different things. This is a directional mic. It only picks up really what's in the front. This is a noise canceling mic. All right, we are back live. Hurricane Milton has passed us by, but the weather's pretty bad driving in this morning. My name is Brian, this is Steve Kane Show, and our phones are down. Everything is working at the radio station. We have power, we have internet, we have Wi-Fi, and the phones are down. And the phone company, their power's out. So I don't imagine we'll have the phones back during the show today. And I wonder if I'd have known the phones were out when I've come in, I probably would have come in without the phones. But before I get to the news and the politics, I'll finish up with the hurricane stuff. And then I'll get into the great new polls about Trump, and I'm very excited about. We'll get into that. And he really took Whoopi Goldberg to the woodshed. And Ron DeSantis, he went after Kamala. We'll get into all that stuff. But anyway, the thing about being on the air during and after hurricanes, I told that story many times about Hurricane Andrew with the board op that drank all the beer, right? You've heard me talk about that a lot. And because that was a fun night. That was a fun night. But one part I have talked about, but I didn't give you a certain piece piece of it because the person was a very vindictive person. And any utterance, even without their name, that had anything to do with them, they would inject themselves into your life and just cause you problems. But they're dead, so they can't bother me now, unless they got some evil spirit running around, which would not surprise me. Remember I told you, after Hurricane Andrew, there was a big article in, was it the Sun Sentinel or the Miami Herald? I think it was the Sun Sentinel. Yeah, it was the Sun Sentinel. There was a big article about our radio station. You've heard me mention this many times. Right after Hurricane Andrew, which was a very devastating storm, there was this massive article in the Sun Sentinel newspaper in Broward County, which covered Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami, attacking Steve Kane and our entire radio station for our coverage. Okay? But I didn't tell you how it ended up in the paper before. In fact, I've never even told this to Steve because I knew it would piss him off and he would bring up the person that got it in the paper. But when I got to the radio station about 6 o'clock the night before the hurricane. And in the hurricane, we were live from all night long, all the way through the morning. And I was on the air like 18 hours that day with different people. We were rotating and we were on the air with our hurricane coverage. And it was a little difficult because there was no internet back then. So what we had were TVs. We had TVs, multiple TVs with different TV stations on them. And they all went off the air except Brian Norcross, and that's how Brian Norcross became a big star. He's on Fox Weather now. And all the other television stations in Miami, their towers were knocked down by Hurricane Andrew or the power went off. They were all off the air, except Brian Norcross. And he kept on the air during Hurricane Andrew. And after the hurricane, he was treated like the hero of the hurricane. And I was a little perturbed by it because we were on the air too and we got no credit, right? And they even had an episode of the Golden Girls, which was on remember the Golden Girls? They had a whole episode about Hurricane Andrew, and like Brian Norcross was in it. You know, he wasn't the only one on I got nothing against Brian Norcross. I've met him. He was a friend of a friend. He doesn't remember me probably, but I socialized with him. You know, he's a good guy, you know. But nothing against him. But they turned him into this big hometown hero. They practically had parades for the guy in Miami. It was so weird. And it went on for years and years and years. And the newspapers were, Brian Norcross this, Brian Norcross that. Now, when we got to the radio station that night, I was on the air, but I was also the board op. And as a rule of thumb, when disasters happen, there's certain commercials you don't air. As an example, after 9/11, you wouldn't air commercials about airlines and flying places, okay? You just wouldn't do it. And before we went on the air, and I looked at the commercial log, there were some commercials that I thought were a little strange to be running. And Steve was doing live spots and stuff. And we had several sponsors, and I said to Steve, you know, but I was young then, nobody was listening to me, you know. And I said, I don't know if we should run these particular commercials. And he said, which ones? One of them was a hurricane shutter company. Okay. And another one was for a funeral home that Steve used to do spots for. Levitt Weinstein, right? Used to do commercials for Levitt Weinstein for Jewish funeral home. And I told Steve, I said, I don't know if we should be doing the funeral home or the hurricane shutter commercials during the hurricane. He's like, no, we got to do them. They paid for the spots. We're going to do them. I said, okay, that was it. You know. And a little while after the hurricane, you can find this article online. If you Google Steve Kane, Hurricane Andrew, it'll come up. There were a couple articles, really. But there was an article written in the Sun Sentinel. And the headline went something like, if Brian Norcross is the hero of Hurricane Andrew, Steve Kane and his cast, and they had some really negative word to do. I don't remember what the word was, but they had some really degrading term to describe all the rest of us that were on the air, which would included me, if Brian Norcross was the hero of Hurricane Andrew, Steve Kane and his cast of whatever they called us, and it wasn't nice, were the complete opposite. And it went on to say, while people were losing their homes, businesses, and lives during Hurricane Andrew in Miami, Steve Kane, and then they went again, his crew of whatever the hell they called this, were doing live commercials for hurricane shutters and funeral homes. And it was pretty brutal. And it was funny at the time. In fact, if I remember correctly, Steve invited the guy that wrote the article into the studio, and he came into the studio. We had a laugh about it at the time. You know, hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? I don't know. I don't know if Garth Brooks would agree with that today, or P. Diddy, but that kind of publicity was okay. But this is the part I didn't tell you. There were two guys that refused to come in to do their shows after the hurricane was gone, and it was Al Rantel and Norm Kent. Okay? And Al Rantel is alive and well. At least I think he is. I think if he would have died, someone would have told me. Norm Kent passed away. And both of these guys, not only did they not come in, when they finally came in, they were making fun of Steve and me and a couple other people who were on during the hurricane, because Steve was giving them a hard time on the air for not being there. And Steve was the program director, so he was running the radio station. He was ran the radio station. He was the program director and one of the owners of the radio station. So he had a management position, and he really ripped them for not coming in even after the storm had passed. And they got nasty with Steve on the air, and there used to be, these guys were not only gay, out of the closet, and Norm Kent, a gay activist, okay? Hardcore gay activist. And there used to be this huge gay bar in Fort Lauderdale called the Copa on US 1 by the Fort Lauderdale airport. And even though Norm Kent was gay, openly gay, and a gay activist, he was still kind of in the closet on the radio, okay? And he didn't like people to know and talk about him being gay. And I know a lot of people that knew Norm Kent would say, that's crazy, but it's not. And maybe, I don't know, his mother listened, I don't know. He did not like any references to him being gay on the air. He was in the closet on the air, pretty much. You know, and there were two things that happened with him. One, and that Steve and I got roped into around this time. Norm was on the air ripping Steve and me and everybody else because we were making fun of them. And Steve got pissed and said, and this is what pissed off Norm Kent. He said, Norm Kent, some caller called in, Steve's talking to a caller, and, you know, and if you guys think I'm rude to some of these callers, you ain't seen nothing till you seen Steve. Steve, I have a heart. Steve's heartless when he's going after these people, right? Callers and other people on the radio. His soul goes somewhere else when he's talking to these people. And he knows what pushes people's buttons. And he knew Norm Kent, even though he was a gay activist, didn't want any reference to him being gay on the radio. Okay? He just didn't want it. Freaked him out. And Steve said on the air, Norm Kent could not be here during the hurricane with us because he was putting up the hurricane shutters on the Copa to protect the Copa so the slam dance would be going on Saturday night or something like that, you know, the big gay bar. And Norm Kent had a fit over this. So anyway, this article in the newspaper, Norm Kent got that printed. He knew all the people at the Sun Sentinel through his gay activism, and he was involved in this campaign that brought down the sheriff of Broward County, Nick Navarro, if you guys remember that. Norm Kent got that article ripping Steve into the newspaper, trying to screw Steve over and get him taken off the air. And it actually had it's hard to get a guy taken off the air when he's one of the owners of the radio station, but it actually had an opposite effect and gave us all kinds of publicity. So Norm Kent did. I never mentioned that part of the story because if Norm was alive, by 7 o'clock this morning, even though the phones aren't working, he'd find a way to contact me. He might even know he's dead. He might find a way to contact me still from the other world. If he's, I don't know where he's at with his lifestyle and everything he did in his life, but it was nuts. It was really a really strange guy. And then he slapped a guy. He had to get, I tell you how much he hated being referenced being gay. There was a guest in studio who was a gay guy. And I don't remember why the guy was in the studio. And he kept calling Norm Kent Missy. Right? And this was on the... Steve and I were laughing. And Steve and I were laughing because he didn't like being called gay. And the guy kept calling him Missy and calling him gay on the air. And Norm said, if you call me Missy again, I'm going to deck you. He says, really? You are Missy? And Steve and I are there. This was on the air. And Norm got up and slapped this guy across the face like I've never seen a man. Not punch. These were gay guys. Okay, they're both gay. Slapped him across the face like you couldn't believe. On the air. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. And the guy that he slapped immediately went into the other room and called 911. But before he could even do it, there was a cop listening who was a listener. He came to the radio station and pressed charges. And Steve and I had to give depositions. Norm wanted he wanted me and Steve to give depositions that made him the victim, which of course we had to tell the truth because we raised our right hand and swore the. And I remember I was being questioned. I was in this deposition. And the prosecutor was questioning me. It was a prosecutor, and they had a court reporter there. And I told the whole story in a lot more detail than now because it had just happened. And Steve and I both testified in depositions. Steve talked first, and then it was my turn. And the prosecutor asked me to describe the slap, and I slapped him across. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, was it closed fist? Was it open hand? How would you describe it? And I said, I don't know if I can say, if I can't say this, bang on the glass and I'll hit the dump button, Mike. I said, Norm, he bitch slapped him. And the court reporter started cracking up, so anyway, since it was part of the court record, when Norm heard me describe what he did as a bitch slap, he took that as me calling him gay. So, and Steve had a similar thing. So we put that together with Steve's Copa reference, putting up the hurricane shutters at the Copas, so he got the newspaper to write this terrible story about Steve and me and all the rest that just helped us. I don't know if anybody cares about that story but me, but it was fun. It was fun at the time. It's a fun story for me. All right, listen, we're going to take our break, and I'll get back into the news and the issues after the break. But just hurricane memories from South Florida radio, guys. I'll take the break, and then when we get back, I'm going to get into the new polls, which are spectacular. So I guess that's okay to say. You didn't bang on the glass, Mike. That's good. Our phones are down, but everything else is working. We'll take our last break of the first hour and be right back.
The cold, hard truth. Delivered morning 6 to 9 right here on The Steve Kane Show.
That was hilarious. Yeah, like Kamala's husband. Exactly. Exactly.
Medicare recipients, listen up. Open enrollment is the only time of year you can make changes to your existing Medicare plan. Call Debbie at I Will Advisors. No matter where you're located in the state of Florida, for expert help this open enrollment period. 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080. That's 954-753-8080.
The Greater South Florida Chamber of Commerce has fantastic free-to-attend events all year long. Join us for their next great expo in your area.
Coming up is their City Festival Business Expo and Health Fair, Saturday, October 19th from 10 to 5 at Miami Springs Golf and Country Club. It's the ultimate gathering of businesses and health enthusiasts. Join them for a day filled with exciting exhibits,
Hi folks, Anita Mitchell here. Please join me on Tuesday at 7
Nope.
p.m. for What's Your Story with Anita Mitchell. Join me this Tuesday at 7 p.m. for What's Your Story with Anita Mitchell. That's on the True Local station.
Have you put off buying new tires because you thought they were too expensive? Find friendly prices at Friendly Tire and Market on both new and used tires. New tires as low as $70 a tire. That's out the door and on the road. Because Friendly Tire doesn't charge you to balance the tire or mount the tire. They have thousands of used tires in stock too, starting at just $30. Call for a quote right over the phone. 954-977-9445. 954-977-9445.
We take on the social justice warriors for breakfast.
All right, we are back. It is the day after Hurricane Milton. Everything at the radio station is working except our phones, so no phones. The phone company has no power from the hurricane, so it'll just be me today. At least, well, I'm hoping Steve will join us. And if the phones do start working, we'll probably know because they'll start ringing. But before we get to the issues, I want to talk about Jupiter Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas, he's been with us for quite some time. He's a good guy. He's been doing a show on our radio station for many, many years. He's not just a financial advisor. He has a specific expertise in retirement planning, which is a whole nother thing. Because when you get to retirement, you're not in the workforce anymore. So you've made your money for the most part, right? Unless you're in an unusual situation. You've made your money. You've saved, you invested, you bought some whatever you got what you got. You're not working anymore. You're retired. And you want to call Joe Thomas and talk to him about annuities. You don't want to risk your nest egg. When you're out in the workforce, maybe you can afford to take some risks because you're still working and bringing in income. But for most people that are retired, you've stopped doing that. So you don't want to risk what you've built up because it's much more difficult to replace when you're no longer in the workforce. That's why I want to talk to him about annuities so you can protect your money from stock market losses and stop losing your hard-earned money and even generate income and have another income stream during your retirement. He's offering free phone consultations no matter where you are located in the United States. You can take advantage of the no-charge phone consultation with Jupiter Joe Thomas. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. That's 561-743-0999. If you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com, and it's listed right there at jupiterjoe.com. Okay, huge polling data came out that I saw this morning when I got out of bed, and it is a beautiful thing. This is according to RealClearPolitics, the RealClearPolitics average. And those that aren't familiar with RealClearPolitics, RealClearPolitics, whether it's the national polls or the state-by-state polls, they put together all the polls on whatever they're going to give you an answer on. In this case, it's Michigan that I'm going to talk about in the Electoral College. They take all the polls that are available, they put them together, and they average them. And the RealClearPolitics average is a very good gauge if the polls are up to date. And the reason it's a good gauge in the direction things are going is because even though a lot of the polls are left-wing push-poll garbage, a lot of the polls are scientific. And when you average all of the polls together, it helps give you a better result. When I say better result, I mean a more accurate result because it compensates for the bias of some of those polls. So the RealClearPolitics average has now said that President Trump has flipped Michigan from Kamala in his favor. Michigan is now in Trump's camp. He is now ahead in the state of Michigan. This is amazing. So with that, now yesterday, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, I went over the RealClearPolitics Electoral College prediction. They were giving it to Trump, but they were giving Michigan to Kamala. But now Michigan's electoral votes are in Trump's favor. So RealClearPolitics, their Electoral College prediction is not only for Trump to win, but win big, with 296 electoral votes to Kamala's 242. Isn't that something? He's flipped Michigan. They're also, he's got Pennsylvania in the Real Clear Politics average. So this gives him the swing states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. And you know what? Wisconsin's going his way too. And President Trump said last night that he's making a play for New Jersey and New York. And you know what? That's not so far-fetched with the state of affairs in this country. I was talking at the top of the hour. There's a conservative commentator I heard yesterday that works for Turning Point, Charlie Kirk. And she had such a great description of Kamala. She said these two hurricanes, Milton and Helene, have given us a week of what the country would be like if it was run by Kamala Harris. Exactly. Nothing would get done, and she would constantly go around pretending she was doing something when in fact she was doing nothing. And as bad as these hurricanes are, you can't help these things. These hurricanes happen, they happen. But if you think like a winner, when something terrible happens, you try to think, well, what positive can come out of it? And I think a lot of people are waking up to how bad, how incompetent, and how dangerous it is to have someone like Willie Brown's girlfriend here as president of the United States. And with Real Clear Politics now giving Michigan to Donald Trump, that is huge, 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 huge. And whatever their number is on Michigan, it's much higher than that, because some of those Michigan polls that are giving Kamala the advantage that are involved in the average are old, okay? So, I mean, this election, now, of course, we've got to go out and swamp them. We need 100 million people to turn out. But we're going to see the biggest landslide since, Reagan got 49 states. I'm not expecting 49 states. The country is not what it was back then. I mean, Reagan got California. Okay, he got every state but Minnesota because he was running against Mondale, and Mondale was from Minnesota. So he got, Reagan, imagine, he got Hawaii, he got California, he got Washington State and Oregon and all that. I'm not expecting that because the country has changed, the demographics have changed, people have moved, and Reagan was the governor of California too, remember, in the 60s. So I'm not expecting that, but this is going to be the biggest landslide since then, I do predict. And I'm not the only one predicting this. I mean, when you have states like Michigan that the Democrats put a lot of effort in that are going in the Trump camp, that is amazing. When you consider everything the man has gone through, they've shot him. There's been 3 assassination attempts. They've arrested him. They've mugshot him. They've convicted him of crimes he didn't commit in a corrupt courtroom. They got all these judgments against him. That's one of the reasons he's doing so well. People see what's going on here. This is absolutely amazing. All right, 1 hour down, 2 to go. We are here live the morning after the hurricane. Everything working but our phones. The power is down for the phone company. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be back right after this.
WSFS 104.3 HD3 Miramar, WIRK 103.1 HD3 Indiantown, and heard in Broward on 96.9 FM, Boca Raton on 95.3 FM, West Palm Beach on 95.9 FM, and in Martin County on 106.9 FM. Programming paid for by Vic Canales Media Group. Your home for the Steve Kane Show. From the All Year Cooling Weather Center, South Florida's #1 choice for same-day AC service and installation. Here's your oldies forecast.
Ryan Lemon here from the All Year Cooling Weather Center. The 5 a.m. advisory is in as Hurricane Milton remains a Category 1 hurricane with max sustained winds of 85 miles per hour, moving northeast at 18 miles per hour. Currently about 10 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral. Hurricane Milton is expected.
I don't know. It's a little more relaxing for me without the phones, tell you the truth.
The hurricane wind field stretches 35 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds stretch up to 205.
Well, people weren't as out back then as they are now. It was,
Warning in effect for Indian River, Okeechobee, and St. Lucie counties, and there are tropical storm warnings still in effect for Martin and Palm Beach counties. We will continue to bring the latest on Hurricane Milton as new advisories come in here on the True Oldies channel.
Weather brought to you by All Year Cooling. Enjoy free AC replacement estimates along with same-day service and installation. Visit allyearcooling.com to schedule your service today. And remember, the All Year family is
so obviously there's not going to be any call-ins today. I don't think we're going to have the phones back. Did you talk to them about you doing the weather?
No.
I would.
Well,
You don't want that to be a habit.
yeah. I mean, I was but I mean, he even messaged me yesterday without me even saying anything. He's like, he goes, I hope you know I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
Yeah.
And this and that. He's like, it's still yours. I'm like,
Okay. Okay.
I know they want. I guess if they try to do it after tomorrow, then
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. You know, people can get cutthroat. When I was starting out, I was cutthroat. I would do that. I would, you know what I mean? I'd push somebody out of the way to go. Absolutely, you know. So you got to push back.
see the opportunity.
Exactly. No, I was telling Mike, you can't let this guy get away with doing it. He said if he tries to do it tomorrow, he'll talk to them.
That's why we're offering a free home security system with free traditional installation. When you use our low-cost central station monitoring, our top-of-the-line systems are designed to detect intruders and give you real-time updates right to your smartphone. And with our state-of-the-art monitoring center, you'll have 24/7 protection from any threat. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your home and family and your valuables with Sloan's comprehensive home security solutions. Call 1-833-283-5050 today to schedule your free installation and start sleeping better tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he had his headphones on, Mike, and the guy that he slapped was on the other side of the desk. He had to reach over and I mean, it was a... That guy was so vindictive and nasty, even though he's been dead for a couple years. I'm reluctant to even talk about it. He was so vindictive. He might have willed someone to monitor me and Steve to harass us if we mention his name.
He's cutting the FPL bills up to 40%. Dog Days of Summer sales. 50% on radiant barrier and insulation removal, rat proofing. We even do AC ducts in the heat of the summer. Act now and get $500 off radiant barrier over 2,000 square feet and $1,000 off over 4,000 square feet. Plus a 30% federal tax credit. So call now 954-939-1500 to save big. Call 954-939-1500 and talk to the owner Scott. It's 954-939-1500. kilowatts.com. Estimates given on the phone. Work done in days, not weeks. Easier than ordering a pizza.
Hello, this is Mike at Friendly Tire. I've been in business 30 years at the same location and offering great deals on new and used tires. I have many suppliers. Whatever car or truck you have, I can get you incredible deals on any tire. I also do
You have to rewind the video to... I'm not going to tell the story again.
My number is 954-977-9445. I will give you a price over the phone on new and used tires. Again, my number is 954-977-9445.
Oh, the cell's working.
On the air since 1977, it's the Steve Kane Show with...
All righty, 5 minutes after the hour. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We are here live Thursday, October 10th, the morning after Milton, and everything is working at the radio station except our phones. The phone company has no power. Oh, and I have no voice. But the phone company's power's down, but our internet's working, the radio station's working, we're on all our radios, everything's working but the phone, so no call. If the phones start working, we'll let you know. So it'll just be me and then until Steve joins us. Before I get to the rest of the news, because what DeSantis did to Kamala last night was a beautiful thing. I get so aggravated at DeSantis that he screwed up by trashing Trump and running against him in the primary. And I just, it's hard to trust him. It's like, can you trust Kemp in Georgia? Can you trust DeSantis? He was so great yesterday. I'll play it in a little bit. But I want to mention something here that happened to my daughter while she's been in town, and I was going to bring it up yesterday, but I didn't because she was here in the studio with me yesterday. By the way, my daughter said this is the nicest, most advanced, and also the cleanest radio station she's ever been to, and she's been going to radio stations with me since she's had memories. Okay, it was pretty cool. I told her it's the cleanest radio station you've ever seen. She's like, whatever. A thing happened to my daughter, and I just want to mention this to you guys because it was pretty frightening. she came to, she flew into Fort Lauderdale. This was a last-minute thing. She already had she was flying I was going to meet her in Orlando tomorrow with a friend of hers, okay, and to go to Halloween Horror Nights. But because of the hurricane, we had to cancel the Orlando trip, and we told my daughter, you and your friend, you still have the tickets. You can use the tickets to go anywhere you want in the country this weekend if you want, and we'll get you a hotel room wherever you want to go, except New York. I said, don't go to New York. It's dangerous. Don't go to New York. But if anywhere else, don't go to Chicago either. I told her, Chicago or New York. Don't go to Chicago or New York. And I also said, don't go to San Francisco, because she hasn't been there yet, because that's dangerous. But you can go anywhere else you want to go. And she called us last minute and said she wanted to come see us. So she came here. And she got an early morning flight. So I was here on the air. I couldn't pick her up at the airport. And then the flight got really delayed because of the hurricane. They had to fly around in a different way to get here because of the hurricane, and things got delayed. So she told everyone, "Don't pick me up. I'll take an Uber or a Lyft from the airport," which I'm not crazy about doing. I don't like her taking these things, but she takes them all the time when she's home, and she takes them here. I take them, and she took a Lyft, and this guy pulled something that I find frightening. If the phone company had power, I'm sure people would have thoughts on this, but the phones we can't complain. People have lost their lives in our listening area. So I'm not gonna whine about the phones when people have lost everything in their lives. But this is what happened. My daughter took a Lyft from the airport to our house when she flew in 2 days ago. And she's in the car. She's on the turnpike, and the guy says, if you pay me cash instead of through the app, I give you a discount. And she said, I don't have any cash, so we got to do it that way. He went on his phone and canceled the ride, with her in the car, by the way. He canceled the ride on the app. And then he says, I'll take you to an ATM. Now, this was all while I was on the air 2 days ago. I didn't know about this. And she says, I'm really not comfortable doing that. Can you just take me home? And she got really scared, rightly so. He's like, no, I'll take you to an ATM and all this stuff. And he already had canceled the ride, which is a little frightening because since he canceled the ride, as far as Lyft as a company knows, she's not in the vehicle. And she was by herself. So she knew that not only was if she called me, I would have left the air, but I'm far away. She flew into Fort Lauderdale. I'm in Palm Beach Gardens. So she texted my mother-in-law, her grandmother, and told her what was happening. And my in-laws, actually, they drove to our house. And the guy did bring her to the house after she complained a lot. And my father-in-law, who's a big guy, talked to him about what he was doing, and the guy didn't even take the money at that point because he was afraid they were going to call the police or something. Pretty frightening thing. She's lucky she got home. I've never had a bad experience in an Uber or Lyft like that, but I'm a guy. That's a very scary thing that happened, and I got to tell you guys. This whole thing of, I didn't talk about this yesterday because I didn't want to talk about this with her here. This whole thing of women are just as good as guys and independence and equality and all that stuff. On the face of it, it sounds all beautiful, but things are different. Okay? And it is very, very dangerous for a single woman to call an Uber or a Lyft. And I was looking up, when this happened, my wife and I, we were looking up online about this because we were thinking about what to do. And we ended up doing nothing, at least yet, because we were talking about it, because the guy knows where we live because he drove her to our... And by the way, when he canceled the ride and said he would take her to an ATM, he handed her his phone and said, hey, put the address into the maps on my phone so I can find your house. Can you believe this? This is nuts. It is scary. pissed off about it and scared, and I'm not sure what we're going to do about it because we're still trying to figure that out. You know, a lot of these things happen in shock. So we looked up online, and on Reddit, there was a whole thread on Reddit about this, in particular with Lyft drivers. And there's something to do with some type of new fee or something that they're taking from the drivers. So apparently a lot of drivers are doing this on Lyft, according to the Reddit thread. I don't know how true that is. But, I mean, what do? You know, somebody like this knows where you live. I don't know if he did anything that was illegal. I mean, he did bring her home. If he would have taken her to the bank or something without her permission, that's like kidnapping, okay? But he did bring her to the destination. So the only thing that may happen is you get him fired. So you're going to get a guy who's doing something so nuts and crazy fired, who knows where you live. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things about that. Plus, I don't know how much personal data he has on my daughter because she called the Lyft ride. I don't know how much information a Lyft driver gets about a passenger. I don't know if they get their full name or not, first and last. But if you are a single woman of any age, do not call Lyfts and Ubers, okay, by yourself. You've got to have somebody else there, preferably a man. You've just got to. It is dangerous to be a woman. You know, these things that women go through, you have no idea till you have a daughter. And then you see what it's like. It changes. You know, that's a lot of times, you know, we're talking a lot about the single cat lady thing, about how people without parents. And a lot of people, even in this audience, get offended. Well, I don't have kids, but I still... When you have children, even adult children, the parenting never ends, okay? And you get a different perspective on most everything in the world when you're not just worried about yourself and you see things from the perspective of having a child out there in the world. But that is a very, very frightening thing. And luckily, my daughter, you know, was sharp enough to get a hold of her grandmother, and they went and met her. But if that didn't work, I mean, she would have called. She would have called 911, you know, and they would have been able to track her, hopefully. But it is very dangerous. And I've mentioned this once or twice on the air. There's a documentary I watched on Netflix a couple years ago about Ted Bundy, and they had one of these people that had interviewed Bundy, or one of these serial killer experts, and they said there were a lot of serial killers in the 60s and 70s, right? A lot of them were very famous, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And what they said, the reason there were so many serial killers in that time, there wasn't all of a sudden something in the water that these people were drinking. And by the way, 80% of serial killers at that time were based in California. Did you know that? 80% of those famous serial killers at some point, Bundy wasn't, but 80% of the serial killers in the 70s and 80s were in California, and which is a very liberal place. And this expert I saw in this Netflix documentary about Bundy, he said the reason there were so many serial killers then is because it was easier to kidnap women, because women all of a sudden, because of the women's liberation movement, women's lib, they were going out for the first time alone. Before, they would always have a chaperone. And when women were going out alone without a chaperone, they put themselves in a position where it was easy for these sickos to isolate them and get them. Like my daughter in a Lyft alone. It's a pretty scary thing that happened. And I'm not sure exactly how we're going to handle it or resolve it. But she's not going to be taking any more Ubers or Lyfts alone. I'll tell you that right now. Anywhere. All right, we'll take our first break of the second hour. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back.
Don't sit on the sidelines. Get in on the action. Call the Steve Kane Show live on air now. 888-GO-KANE-1. This is the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Is this the...
Easily sounds like one of those kids that you can
You know,
take all your money and then kill you or leave.
Yeah, exactly. Go to the take me exactly.
Like that woman that was actually doing Lyft, like she was the driver and picked up that guy from the house and then pulled a gun on her, said drive me to ATM.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That Boca Mall killer took him to the ATM.
So anything ATM, I don't care if it's a
thing
that they're just trying to avoid. That's classic.
That's what. Yeah.
That's classic number one. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
go to ATM, give me your money, and I'll let you live. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
No way. Also, want me if we don't get the phones back up, want me to put like the backup area in?
Yes, but you'll have to call them on your cell phone and let them know.
The U.S. spends more on interest on debt than it does on national defense. This is not sustainable. Chris Eddy is a retired Air Force one-star general, a retired FBI intelligence leader, and a current Weston City commissioner who has balanced budgets. Help him stop the chaos by electing him as your next congressman in Florida's 25th district.
I'm Chris Eddy, and I approve this message. Brian Craig here. I've suffered with massive pain in my knee for years, but not anymore. It's all gone, thanks to Dr. Appleton and his laser away pain system. I'm in studio right now with Dr. Appleton. Dr. Appleton, how'd you do it?
By treating the knee pain with laser, treatment is simple and no side effects. I have robotic lasers that have a wonderful effect on joint pain. These are all FDA approved.
Now, you don't just help with knees. Tell the listeners what other areas you can help them with.
Any joint I can do, shoulder pain, hip pain, sciatica, stenosis, arthritis, tendonitis, bursitis, from the foot all the way up to the neck.
Appleton is a chiropractic physician, and with the laser away pain system, there's no injections, no surgery, and no drugs. He's open 6 days a week, and same-day appointments are available. Call right now for your free consultation. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. Make sure to tell Dr. Appleton you heard about him on the radio.
Do you suffer from neuropathy? I did, until I went to Lighthouse Medical Center in Pompano. Numbness, pain, burning, tingling in my hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance, muscle twitching have all but disappeared. Say goodbye to your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center for a free consultation. 754-222-6642.
Mike Lindell is offering wholesale pricing for Christmas. The standard MyPillow is $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. That's right, just $14.88 and free shipping on orders over $75. So go to MyPillow.com right now and use our promo code Kane at checkout, K-A-N-E, and get the standard MyPillow for just $14.88, the lowest price ever. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879, 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane.
Now back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig. Listen in the Palm Beaches on 95.9 FM, the Treasure Coast on 106.9 FM, hear us in Boca on 95.3 FM, Fort Lauderdale on 96.9 FM, and anywhere in the world at True.
All right, 20 minutes after the hour. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We are back. Now, I just heard my recorded commercial for this incredible special on MyPillow. This is the lowest price ever, $14.88. It's the standard MyPillow. Remember, I paid $65 for that pillow. There's similar savings on the queen and king size pillows. Free shipping on orders over $75 when you use our promo code Kane at checkout, K-A-N-E at MyPillow.com. But you can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. That's 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane, K-A-N-E. Okay, so Governor DeSantis, isn't he great when the hurricanes come? Why did he have to run against Trump? You know, we got to get this guy back on track because he's young, he's so good, and I mean, I can't trust him any more than Kemp right now, but he does a great job with these hurricanes. And he's really taken on Kamala. Kamala Harris is just a scummy, scummy person. She's tried to inject herself into this hurricane, and she's got this knee-jerk thing because she's a liberal minority woman, black, Indian, whatever. She's a liberal woman, so she immediately falls on trying to make herself a victim And there's been all this negative coverage on how she and Biden did nothing after Helene in North Carolina. She tried to inject herself into the hurricane that just hit us last night here in Florida. And to inject herself in, she went along with NBC. Probably there's coordination between her campaign and NBC, which would be a campaign finance violation, would be illegal. But hey, they were coordinating with ABC for that debate, so why not NBC? Now they just got to coordinate with CBS, and they'll have the trifecta. But this false story that DeSantis is refusing to take her calls. I mean, and this is just a really sick thing. People have died. People have died. People died that were not in the hurricane cone. People have lost everything. Their homes, their businesses, everything. In areas where there wasn't even the cone wasn't even in their neighborhood. It's crazy. And she's still trying to make herself a victim and inject herself in, as opposed to actually doing something. And DeSantis went on with Bret Baier last night talking about the hurricane. And, of course, Bret Baier brought this up. And Ron DeSantis cleaned her clock. Listen to this. This is Governor DeSantis on Bret Baier on Fox News last night.
What you said about Vice President Harris and the phone call, did she ever get through?
You know, Brett, like I said, my job is to marshal resources and work with everybody to have an effective response. And she thinks it should be about her. If I honestly thought that there was something to be gained, I would pick up the phone and call her. The fact of the matter is she has no role in this process. She's not part of the chain of command. I am working with President Biden and FEMA and our state and local partners, and we're getting the job done. She has never been interested in any of the storms we've had in the state of Florida for her entire time as vice president. Now she's out there attacking me because I'm not catering to her whims. All she's trying to do is inject herself to be a part of her political campaign. I don't have time for political games. We've got a job to do. We got people's lives on the line, and that is our sole focus.
Well, most importantly, hopefully everyone gets through this okay. We're praying for your state. Governor, we appreciate the time.
By the way, what does he mean your state? He lives here. Bret Baier has a $30-something million mansion right down the street from Mar-a-Lago here in Palm Beach on the island. This is your state. He wants to sound like he's a Washington insider, you know, Bret Baier. No, he's a Floridian. His family live here. Now, they probably have another place where they summer, you know how these rich people are. But at least they winter here. I would hope they would do more than winter here if they paid $34 million for a house. Much smaller than Mar-a-Lago. Maybe Letitia will charge him with overinflating his price. I don't know. What Kamala did was pretty disgusting. And Ron DeSantis, I know I'm not the only one. It's so disappointing because isn't he good? He is really good. And he blew it. He would have been the second MAGA president, quite likely. I know J.D. Vance is there now, and you know he probably would not have been Trump's running mate because there's problems with the Electoral College votes when you have both people on the ticket from the same state. If both people are from the same state, you can't get the Electoral College votes from that state. And Florida is a big state. This isn't Delaware, and every electoral vote is precious. This election's too important. But you know, you look at what's going on here, and so what happened yesterday? Now Biden's been throwing her under the bus. I talked about that yesterday. But then Biden pulled this stunt yesterday. He had this fake Zoom meeting. It was Biden and Kamala, Mayorkas, somebody else from FEMA. I don't know who else was there. And they had this live televised Zoom meeting pretending to do something about the hurricane because they got caught using FEMA funds as a slush fund. Now, I know they're saying that Trump did the same thing. No, Trump, I tell you right now, Trump did not do the same thing. Now, by not doing the same thing, I'm not saying that Trump didn't use FEMA funds for some illegal somehow. That may have happened. I don't know. I haven't heard Trump confirm or deny. I got to hear from Trump what the story is. But I promise you this, it wasn't for 25 million plus criminals like they're doing. You understand what I mean? What they've done is on such a grand scale. There's no comparison. If Trump did that, which I don't know that he did or didn't right now, but if he did what they're accusing him of, what they've done is on such a grand scale, there's no comparison between the two, I promise you. And they did this fake Zoom meeting that nothing came out of to try to cover their butts and look like they were doing something. And then in that Zoom meeting, though, Kamala is talking to someone, and it looks like she's talking with the ear ring headsets. Have you seen this? And you hear her say it's a live report. Yeah. Are those the ones she wore during the debate? You know, she screwed that up. They set up this whole fake Zoom meeting, and I can't tell you what an incompetent display she's put on this entire week. And then to inject herself by trying to make herself a victim, because that's what liberals do. They always want to be victims. All right, we're going to take our break from the bottom. We are here live on the radio station the morning after Milton. Everything is working at the radio station except our phones. The phone company, the power is out with the phone company. We have our internet, we have our lights, our AC's working, and of course our radio stations are all on the air, so far as I know. But our phones are the only thing not working. But that's okay. I kind of enjoy not taking the calls sometimes. I think it's a little more relaxing this morning after the storm. All right, we'll take our break for the bottom of the hour. And if you're in Florida and you've been impacted by this hurricane, which that's pretty much everybody, you want to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting. He's been with us for many years. During the last bad hurricanes, he took very good care of many of our listeners. And he is just a great guy. He's a good MAGA guy. He will never sell you a roof you do not need. And he's not just a roofer, okay? He's a contractor as well. And in Florida, because he's a licensed contractor, Tom Laporta can deal directly with your insurance company on the cost of the repair or replacement of your roof, which cuts down on the repair time quite a bit, okay? He does great work, and as I say, he's a good MAGA guy. Make sure you tell him you heard about him on the radio. He'll take extra good care of you, being one of our listeners. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of guys driving through neighborhoods in trucks today offering to do this and that. You don't know who those guys are. And if they do a repair, you don't know if they've done it right. And if they didn't, good luck finding them next week. They're gone. And their burner phones, well, they're not answering. Call Tom Laporta. This number rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone. He works on every type of structure, no matter how large, no matter how small, residential, commercial, even municipal buildings. His number, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. That's 954-604-4602. For Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting and Roofing. We'll be right back.
Making morning radio great again. It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig. The greatest rock and roll hits of the 60s and 70s coming up this morning.
A weak guy. His questions of Kamala yesterday. Very challenged, but I watched the questions. I watched that stupid View where you have these really demented people. It was so foul. Every word.
Oh, CR, thanks for that gift. We're halfway through.
Weather brought to you by All Year Cooling. Enjoy free AC replacement estimates along with same-day service and installation. Visit allyearcooling.com to schedule your service today. And remember, the All Year family is here to serve your family all year long. And now, a True Oldies traffic check. Brought to you by the Palm Beach Kennel Club.
In tonight, and I'm looking forward to being your next U.S. Senator and bringing back a strong, secure border, that strong Trump economy where everybody was doing better no matter what color your skin, what neighborhood you were from, what your political identity.
This demo eligible products
Beach Kennel Club. Listen to the PBKC Picks live podcast every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. It's showtime at PBKC. Get your tickets today for paddock dinner shows, including the Pure Zeppelin Experience this Friday night, October 11th, plus Let It Be November 8th, and Petty Nicks November 22nd. And don't miss comedian Jimmy Fallon for 2 shows, November 15th and 16th. The paddock is also your best bet for OTB action and football Sundays. For more info, go to pbkennelclub.com.
Are you feeling safe and secure in your home? Unfortunately, millions of Americans are vulnerable to break-ins every year. But you can have peace of mind knowing that your home is protected 24/7. At Sloman's, we understand the importance of home security. That's why we're offering a free home security system with free professional installation. When you use our low-cost central station monitoring, our top-of-the-line systems are designed to detect intruders and alert authorities and give you real-time updates right to your smartphone. And with our state-of-the-art monitoring center, you'll have 24/7 protection from any threat.
Into the fire. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. They're very complimentary.
Reporting today about what is going on behind.
Oh my gosh, though. The phones may not be working, but people are calling like mad. I'm looking at the, I can see the internet call log. I mean, it's page after page of calls.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right here.
Well, that tells you they're listening. I mean, I wish I could take them.
Comcast is failing us right now.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I don't care. But it tells you, you know.
Yeah, people want updates after this notice.
I guess. I don't know if you call what I'm doing updates, but they, you know, they. Yeah, I know.
Tom Laporta here from Laporta Contracting, Roofing, and Building Restoration. I am pleased to say our relationship with the Steve Kane Show and the show's listeners keeps getting stronger and stronger. The Steve Kane Show listeners are truly the best customers we have ever had. They are courteous, intelligent, honest, and quite a joy to work with. We have completed thousands of projects for the listeners, from repairs, single-family homes, large HOA complexes, and churches. With great success.
I appreciate the people calling, even though I can't take the phones are down.
Like family. We have installed all kinds of roofs, from asphalt shingles, clay, and concrete tile, standing metal seam, slate tile, and flat roof systems. So come on and let our family take care of your family. Call me on my cell at 954-604-4602 or find us on the web at laportacontracting.com. The number again is 954.
We have some new CNN reporting today about what is going on behind the scenes.
Enrollment is the only time of year you can make changes to your existing Medicare plan. Call Debbie at I Will Advisors, no matter where you're located in the state of Florida, for expert help this open enrollment period. 954-753-8080. 954-753-8080. That's 954-753-8080. Craig here. Our 6th annual cruise is coming up, and you're all invited. This time, we're sailing for 7 nights on Celebrity Cruise Line's newest ship, the Ascent, to Puerto Plata, St. Thomas, and St. Martin. We set sail March 30th. We have private shore excursions, private cocktail parties, group activities. We're going to go to the
Now, guys, if you have not already done it, order your copy of Robert Allen Miltenberg's new book, The Sound of Light. It's a science fiction political book, also about music. It's available on Amazon. There's a link in the description of the video, or just search Robert Allen Miltenberg, The Sound of Light, on Amazon. It'll pop right up, as well as his other books. And I've promoted all his books. They're very good. He's a great writer. He's a big supporter of the program, too. All righty, we are back. I'm Brian. We're live. It's Thursday, October 10th, the morning after Hurricane Milton. And everything is working at the radio station but our phones. We have electricity, our radio stations are all on the air, our internet and Wi-Fi is working. But the phone company, they're without power, as a lot of people are in Florida. So our phones aren't working. But during the break, I can, even though the phone, you can't get through, I can see, everything is done by the internet, right? The phones are through the internet. So I can see how many times people have called. We have, I just counted 5 pages. If you go to the web server that turns up 5 pages of calls. So we would have had full boards of calls from about 5:55 until now, but we can't take calls. I appreciate you guys calling, even though the phones don't ring through to me because the phone company's power is out. If it comes back on, we'll know because the phones will start ringing. But even though I can't take your calls, I appreciate it. It lets me know you guys are out there. It's almost like a smoke signal that I know you're out there, that I can see so many of you have called. And a lot of you have been leaving voicemails too, so I really appreciate that. And, it's one of those days. I mean, I'm looking outside. You know what it looks like? It almost looks like the days of COVID, right? When everybody's under lockdown and there's nobody out on the streets. It is dead. And Mike and I I bet we're the only 2 cars in the parking lot at this massive office complex, and I don't know what's going to be open today, but this hurricane's a bad one, guys. It really is a bad one. And later today, when we start getting the reports of what's going on, I hope Kamala is ashamed of herself, but I don't think she's self-aware enough to feel shame for politicizing a god-awful tragedy like this one. I was talking earlier that Trump has overtaken, according to RealClearPolitics average, Trump has overtaken Kamala in Michigan, which is huge. Every major predictor, the Electoral College, gives it to him. And people are just disgusted by the situation in the country. They're just disgusted by it. Trump has always been popular, but he's more popular than ever before. And there's going to be a lot of blue areas like Michigan that turn red this time around. Did you, just to give you an idea of the different types of people in the 2 parties, you see when President Trump goes into a restaurant, a Chick-fil-A or a Cuban restaurant in Miami, wherever he goes, what does he do? He pays for everybody. How many times have you seen him go in and pay for everyone's meal? He'll give them the money. That's right. And he pays for everyone's meal that's in the restaurant. Did you see what Tim Walz did with Kamala's husband? They were in a restaurant yesterday. They got whatever it was they ordered. They walked away. Tim Walz's daughter was left behind. And they didn't pay. In fact, they didn't pay for even the daughter. They just took whatever they ordered. They walked away. They didn't pay. Typical Democrat, right, with the handout. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I don't know if I have the audio of the daughter. I know I have it. I tweeted it, but it was yesterday. I have to find it. But they left the daughter there, and the daughter, who's a total snowflake, I don't know if she's Gen Z but you can tell she's a liberal. She says, "I feel exposed." I'll pull it up. I know, I got it here. I'll pull it up. Just give me a minute. And I don't know if she, it didn't even occur. Doug Emhoff is a millionaire. I don't know about Walz. I haven't heard about him being wealthy. And they didn't pay. And they left the daughter there. And then the daughter says, well, somebody will be up here to pay the bill. Okay, here it is. I'm not sure if you can hear the daughter in this clip. But let's pull it up. So Doug Emhoff, Tim Walz, and Walz's daughter, they're there. They order pastries, and then they just take them. They don't pay, and they leave. Could you imagine if Trump went to some place and didn't pay like that? and left the daughter there. And of course, I don't know if she didn't have money or she doesn't think she should pay either. Listen.
Yes. Great.
Look at me being concerned about enough. Look at me. Do I look like I'm skipping it?
Yeah, you're going to skip out on the check, Tim Walls. He's talking about the fattening pastries.
All right. Well, I want a coffee. What else?
Do you want to get your drinks out? You guys don't have time on, do you?
No, do you have iced tea? You have iced tea?
Yes, we do.
I'll take iced tea.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Coffee?
Yeah, I want a coffee.
Okay, so that's part one. They order iced tea, pastries, and a Diet Mountain Dew. This is Kamala's husband and Tim Walls.
You guys go
All right, you get the tea? All right.
Okay, so they're at the counter with the cash register. Tim Walls and Doug Imhoff. They get their tea, they get their pastries, they get their coffee, and they just leave. Have you ever gone to a cash register at a place like this and not paid? Well, these two have. Now the daughter's standing there. Tim Walls' daughter is standing there. She's waiting for her Diet Mountain Dew.
for your tea. I feel exposed right now.
Now that's the daughter. She says, I feel exposed right now. Now, I'm not really sure what that means. Does she mean that she's full of herself now because her dad's running for vice president and they have Secret Service, and since he walked away, she doesn't have Secret Service, and she's with regular people now? I'm not exactly sure what she means by it. She sounds typical Gen Z snowflake.
I feel exposed right now. Thank you so much. And someone will be up here today. Right? No, like he's coming. Thank you so much.
Okay, she says, somebody will be up here to pay, don't worry. And the guy at the cashier says, don't worry about it. Now, I know this was on C-SPAN, by the way, broadcast live on C-SPAN. That we have this courtesy of C-SPAN by accident because they just happen to have a camera there following their every move. If Donald Trump or Melania was there with JD, but if Donald Trump went into a restaurant and ordered all of that and didn't pay and walked away, what do you think the media would do? Yeah. They don't even expect to have to pay for it. It doesn't even occur to them. I've seen J.D. Vance on a number of occasions pay for things. He's been doing things in restaurants and diners. I've seen him pay. I saw him at a bar with his wife. He ordered a beer. He paid. That restaurant, remember that? That restaurant that wouldn't let J.D. Vance in, threatened to call the cops if he got out of his car? He paid for everybody's bill, J.D. Vance. None of that gets reported. President Trump didn't even take a salary, donated his salary every time he got paid when he was in his first term. But Tim Walls and Doug Imhoff, a multimillionaire, ordered food at a restaurant and just walked away. I've never seen anything like this. Sometimes I almost wish it was a Democrat sometimes, because Democrats have complete immunity and a free pass to do whatever it is they want. Take bribes from China? That's okay. Drive a car into the drink and kill a woman? That's okay. You can still run. You can still be in the Senate. Steal food from a restaurant? That's okay. Because that's what that is. Stealing food from a restaurant. And you know what? I don't know if they ever paid. Maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. But I know that I've seen President Trump take money out of his own pocket and pay. In fact, he does it so much. Remember about a week or so ago, he paid for a woman's groceries at a grocery store he was visiting, and the media went after him for it. They talked about how it was some type of campaign finance violation for him to do that, like he was paying a voter for something. No, he was helping a woman with her groceries. Tim Walls and Doug Imhoff steal food from a restaurant. Media silence. And we only know about it because C-SPAN had a camera just following their every move without any commentary. Yeah, that's how it is. Now, this is a very important question. Are you and your family drinking toxic water? I was. My family was. We were drinking it. We were cooking with it. We were bathing in it. We were showering in it. And I know that because Angel Water sent Rocky out and he tested my water. Oh boy. Oh boy. It was bad. It was bad. The Angel water purification system is amazing. I've had it it'll be 3 weeks soon. The water is spectacular. My dishes and my clothes have never felt so clean. It's amazing. I unload the dishwasher now and I feel the plates. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. The silverware is so clean, the glasses. And I've got a new dishwasher. And they've never been this clean because of all those forever chemicals that the EPA warns us about and these other things, toxins and poisons that are in the water. You never fully get your dishes clean, your clothes clean, or your body. I was talking to I asked my daughter last night, I said, can you tell a difference in the water? She says, oh yeah. She said, just like I've been telling you. She says, my skin feels like I've used moisturizer on it, she told me, showering in our water, because all the water goes through the Angel water purification system before it enters the house. So it's not just our drinking water, it's the water that goes through all our appliances, clothes washer, dishwasher, the ice maker and water dispenser in the refrigerator, the sink, the water heater, the sinks in the bathroom, the toilets, the bathtubs, the showers, all purified before it enters the home. I'm going to give you the number to Angel Water. Give them a call. They'll send Rocky out. He will test your water. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to be as shocked as I was. And they have a great offer for those of you that listen to our radio station. When you mention that you heard about them on the radio, Angel Water is going to give you a free under-the-sink reverse osmosis system, which I have, with the purchase of a whole house refiner. I also have the whole house refiner. It's amazing. They're also offering 12 months no interest financing and no prepayment penalty. So give them a call. 561-899-6585. 561-899-6585. That's 561-899-6585 for Angel Water. We'll be right back.
The Cold.
Find it very interesting compared to
God, Lord, be a minister of death.
The following approach. When working to build an inclusive exercise program, it can be helpful to use the following approach. Thoughtfully consider inclusivity.
We take on the social justice warriors for breakfast. Now the Steve Kane Show is on the air.
All right, we're back 9 before 8. We are here live the morning after Hurricane Milton, Thursday, October 10th. And everything is working at the radio station but our phones. And I'm looking at the trees outside. It looks like the winds have gotten down to normal, at least in Palm Beach Gardens, which is good. That means things are moving north away from us, because when I was talking at the top of the show, when I came in today, the winds were pretty rough on the roads, and I was thinking on the way in, I probably shouldn't be driving in today like the guy in Clerks. I'm not even supposed to be here today, but I'm glad I came in, and it's nice to see at least this part of Florida we got through with a lot of damage. I mean, it's really heartbreaking when you see people have lost their lives in this area that wasn't even in the cone. You know, it's just the way it's just a bad storm, and we're going to get a lot of bad news here in Florida today. Really bad. You know, it's always bad after a hurricane, but there's just something about this one that seems different. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but hopefully it's not as bad as, although with a lot of people we already know have passed. Let's hope that number stays down. But some of it is because some things have happened that shouldn't have. I couldn't believe the roof that got pulled off that stadium in Tampa. That's supposed to be a safe place to be. And I remember I saw that one of those stadiums that they were housing people in with all the bunks yesterday afternoon, and I'm like, I would never go to one of those places. That's what they did. And my wife and I were talking about this. That's what they did in New Orleans with Katrina, and look what happened, right? Yeah, people were being victimized in that place because a lot of the homeless people. One of the local sheriffs up there near Tampa said sex offenders can't come in. Well, good luck checking that. I hope it's not the honor system. So Kamala went on this series of interviews, which I don't really understand. The View, Stern, that sex podcast, Colbert. I really don't understand what the purpose of that was. I mean, if I had to think of something, maybe it's just so she could say she did interviews. I don't know. But the Kamala Harris campaign that has been propped up by so many on the left has completely collapsed. And I've told you from the beginning of her campaign, she is not meant to win. She is a sacrifice candidate. And things are really starting to show now. And CNN is reporting how devastating it is. This is Dana Bash. And Dana Bash, who, remember, she was part of the team that she moderated that debate with Trump and Biden. She's part of the team that forced Biden out of the race. And she's talking about the current state, get in mind, this is CNN, the current state of Kamala's campaign from insiders that she hears from, and it's not good for Kamala, good for America.
We have some new CNN reporting today about what is going on behind the scenes inside the Harris campaign and more broadly among Democrats who are growing more and more anxious about a 2016 redux. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez joins me now. Priscilla, we were just joking here at the table that anxious Democrats happen on a day that ends in Y, but this is something that perhaps is warranted given the data that they're seeing. Explain your great reporting.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right, Dana. And this has been a campaign that was described by multiple Democrats, allies, aides, to the vice president as a good vibes campaign. But what's also creeping in now is that anxiety. The reason for that is because these polls are not really moving.
Yeah, they're not moving. Anxiety. You know, these people that work in these campaigns, the staffers, they get a lot of anxiety because what they start fantasizing about is what their job in the White House is going to be. And now what the staffers are trying to do is they're trying to figure out where they're going to be working in a month, less than a month.
Battleground blitzes, despite the opportunities she has had across media outlets, there is still not a lot of movement from voters who are moving more towards her versus former President Donald Trump. In fact, I had one source describe it to me this way, quote, people are nervous. They know the polls are tight, and a lot of us are having these flashbacks to 2016 too. We know when it can go the wrong way and it can still feel fresh. So
okay, so the flashbacks, that means Hillary's defeat. This is really an amazing thing that's going on. You know, I've called it for all year, really, the Trump miracle. The Trump miracle. They've shot him. They've mugshotted him. 3 assassination attempts. Fake convictions by corrupt judges. Fake corrupt judges in civil suits. The property case, the Carroll case, all these things. And all the other things. I mean, it's just endless. We could spend hours just listing all the things they've done to this man, and he's so far ahead in the polls. And really, what they've done, well, there's a lot of things. Okay, Trump was always incredibly popular. We know this, But they've martyred him in that they've harassed him so much and have gotten so over the line with it that people that were not on his side realize that it's not conspiracy theory anymore. It is law. Lawfare is real. And they see it. And people in this country, for the most part, people in this country are fair. And they don't like to see the government harass people like this and jam people up like this. Plus the suffering of the country and the prices and everything that's going on. They've made him more popular than ever. And, you know, when Trump's first term was over and everything was settled, I told you guys, and a lot of people were plenty ticked off at me for this in this audience. I said, we're going to find that having 2 non-consecutive terms is going to be much better than 2 back-to-back. Because when he comes back in 4 years, and now we're back in 4 years, people are going to have 4 years of experiencing how great Trump was and what it's like with a regular president. And when he comes back in for his second term, he's going to have a complete mandate to get everything done that he wants to do. And we see that. This is going to be the busiest 4 years of any president in history. And it's going to be beautiful. And you can see they're surrendering even on CNN. Now, I want to tell you guys about Game Day Men's Health. On Tuesday, it was 6 weeks since I started my testosterone therapy at Game Day Men's Health. And they tested my testosterone level. When I first went there, it was low, low, low. And it explained why I wasn't feeling well, all these problems I was having. And they tested my testosterone level, and they did it, by the way, while I was there in the office. I went in right after the show. They were across the hall from the radio station. I went in. They took my blood, and they tested my testosterone, had the results back in just a few minutes. I have the testosterone level of a 20-year-old right now. My testosterone's higher than yours, Mike. You know, and you're a lot younger than me. I have the testosterone level of not a 25-year-old, of a 20-year-old. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely. And I know that you can tell the difference in me just by how I've been on the air. You know, before I started the testosterone therapy, the phones being out of order, doing a 3-hour show, I would have done it, but it would have been a chore. Today, I'm just breezing through it. We got 2 hours down. We got an hour to go. I'm good to go. The testosterone being replaced back to the level when I was 20 years old is amazing. I knew it would be back to the levels it was in my 20s, but I didn't think when I was 20. That's absolutely amazing. That's when you have the most testosterone of all. Give them a call. You know, Game Day Men's Health, they're located right across the hall. So if you make an appointment while I'm here, I'm happy to say hi to you or give you a tour of the radio station if you want. Here's their number, 561-355-5341. 561-355-5341. That's 561-355-5341 for Game Day Men's Health. And you can feel as good as I'm feeling. Get your life back. Give them a call, 561-355-5341. All right, as I say, 2 hours down, 1 to go. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. We'll be back with the final hour of today's show after this.
WSF.
Tropical storm warnings still in effect for Martin and Palm Beach counties. We will continue to bring the latest on Hurricane Milton as new advisories come in here on the True Oldies channel.
Weather brought to you by All Year Cooling. Enjoy free AC replacement estimates along with same-day service and installation. Visit allyearcooling.com to schedule your service today. And remember, the All Year family is here to serve your family all year long. And now, brought to you by the Palm Beach Kennel Club.
Look out for slight winds, slick roadways, and lots of storm damage throughout your morning commute. Be sure to avoid U.S.
Sloman's in Appleton is for the 8 o'clock hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
And look out for an accident on Lakes Forest Drive at Sea Road. This report is sponsored by Robert Half.
Oh, no napkins.
Hiring managers having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. They're recruiting professionals who utilize their award-winning AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today. That's Traffic on Zach.
Traffic, a service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. The poker room at PBKC is open every day with 65 tables of action, including cash games, high hands, mega bad beat jackpots, and exciting tournaments. That's small and win big with table games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em or 3-card poker with a $5 minimum, 7 days.
Everything's working but the phones. So what do you guys think of the show without phones?
When you need lab work, don't waste hours and hours waiting at the doctor's office or one of those big labs. Go to any lab test now at Boca and any lab test now at Coral Springs. Their prices are guaranteed to be the lowest you'll find anywhere. No appointment, doctor's order, or prescription is needed, and they're in and out in 15 minutes or less. You don't need any lab and blood work your doctor can order. They even have drug testing and STD testing. Take control of your health care and visit any lab test now at Boca.
Just okay? Okay? Okay's not good.
Advertising on our radio station, so don't use the rest. Only go to any lab test now at Boca and any lab test now at Coral Springs. And make sure you tell them you heard about them on the radio.
And now a message from Scott from Cut My Kilowatts.
This is Scott from Cut My Kilowatts. Dog days of summer are upon us. Your AC is struggling, running constantly, trying to hold the temperature, maybe even failing late afternoon. Your electric bill
Have to talk through.
even double. Radiant barrier is the cure. Stop the heat gain, lowering the temperatures in the attic up to 40 degrees.
We've had problems in
40%. Dog days of summer sales. Save 50% on radiant barrier and insulation removal, rat proofing. We even do AC ducts in the heat of the summer. Act now and get $500 off radiant barrier over 2,000 square feet and $1,000 off over 4,000 square feet. Plus a 30% federal tax credit. So call now 954-939-1500 to save big. Call 954-939-1500 and talk to the owner Scott. That's 954-939-1500 or cutmykilowatts.com. Estimates given on the phone, work done in days, not weeks. Easier than ordering a pizza.
On the air since 1977, it's the Steve Kane Show.
Alrighty, the third hour has begun. You can figure out what that means. I am here with you live, Brian Craig, it's Steve Kane Show. And it is the morning after Hurricane Milton, Thursday, October 10th. We are here live the morning after the hurricane. And everything at the radio station is working, except the phone company has lost power, like a lot of people have in Florida because of the hurricane. So we cannot take your calls because the power's down at the phone company. But everything here at the radio station is working. So that's great. So we'll keep on trucking. We got 55 minutes to go. And thankfully, to my restored testosterone levels, 3 hours with no calls, no sweat. I got some other great news on the poll. This is really amazing. We got to be careful not to get overconfident. We still need 100 million people to turn out for Trump. Okay, we need to have a major turnout, no doubt about it. Now, I was talking earlier that the RealClearPolitics average now is giving Michigan to President Trump, which is huge, and that gives him an electoral college advantage of 296. Remember, you only need 270 to win. 296 to Kamala's 242. And now, I just found during the break, the Poly Market, they're now giving Wisconsin to Trump. Trump has flipped Wisconsin by 2 points. So we've got Michigan and Wisconsin. With that, Trump now is leading in 6 of the 7 battleground states. This is very important. Trump is now leading in 6 of the 7 battleground states. This is absolutely amazing. And Wisconsin has, 10 electoral college votes. So if we add Wisconsin, that is giving Trump 306 electoral college votes, 306 to Kamala's 232. That is amazing. The Trump miracle continues. I mean, that's just beautiful. And it's gonna get worse and worse every day. And it's important for all of these polls and everything to be circulated. Don't buy this thing like, a lot of people, I was talking about this last week, tell I shouldn't talk about this, I shouldn't be so happy, I want to discourage voters. Well, I'm here to tell you, most of the people that tell you shouldn't talk about it are fake MAGA. They don't want people to know. Remember last week or so ago, Greg 2 with the photographs, I said taking a photograph of your ballot is illegal. The reason I know that is because in 2016, when people were voting for Trump, they were taking pictures with their ballots and posting them on Twitter. And immediately CNN went on the air and talked about how incredibly illegal it is to do it. I think they said it might be a felony. And the reason they did is they were panicked that Facebook and Twitter was going to be filled with all these Trump ballots, and they were trying to stop a trend. And they scared people they stopped doing it. It was early in the day. Okay, so it is so important to share this information about the polls. It will not discourage our people. It'll energize them, and it'll discourage them because they're going to see the reality. And then Mark Halperin, he's been around for a long time on CNN and kind of disposed of him lately. But Mark Halperin has had access to Kamala Harris's internal polling. And this is Mark Halperin yesterday talking about Kamala's internal polling that he has seen.
To talk through. For you Harris people on here complaining that we're talking about problems in the Harris campaign, you're welcome to put your head in the sand about it. If you want to go watch MSNBC primetime and hear how great things are going for the Harris campaign, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to understand what's actually happening, we're here to tell you. I just saw some new private polling today that's very robust private polling. She's in a lot of trouble. Here's how I framed it this morning in my newsletter. The conversation I'm having with Trump people and Democrats with data are extremely bullish on Trump's chances in the last 48 hours.
Okay, in the last bullish on Trump, and he said, and Democrats with data, they're talking about how Trump's chances are bullish. Democrats with data means Democrats that have access to the internal polling numbers, the ones we don't see.
Trump people and Democrats with data are extremely bullish on Trump's chances in the last 48 hours. Extremely bullish. You think of the 7 battleground states. Which ones is Harris in danger of losing? I would say Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. I'm not saying she'll lose all 6, but she's in danger. The only one that the Democrats say she's not in danger of losing is the one I never say the name of because I can't pronounce it. But it's where Las Vegas is, right? You guys agree with me? She could lose any of those 6. Right? I mean, she could lose all 7, but Democrats will tell you they're worried about those 6.
Okay, now this is an interesting thing. So this is according to the internal polling. Kamala Harris and Democrat internal polling, according to Mark Halperin, is showing that she is losing 6 of the 7 battlegrounds, and the only one that she's not losing is Nevada. And I guess he doesn't like to say it because is it Nevada or Nevada? I don't care. But I wouldn't be so sure about Nevada or Nevada, whatever you want to call it. I call it Nevada. Whatever. President Trump is so smart. There's no tax on tips. Las Vegas is run by tip economy workers. And if you remember, when Obama ran, we learned really about how influential and how many SEIU, Service Employees International Union members, there are. And those are the people that work in restaurants and the hotels of Vegas. Everybody that works in the service employees, in Vegas. And the rest of Nevada. That's a huge number of people that live on tips. And tips just aren't cash anymore. And I wonder, because here, when I drive down I-95 here, there's digital Trump billboards, and they switch to different messages from Trump. But I see the no tax on tips quite a bit, as well as Social Security. You see that too, in overtime. But getting the message out in Nevada, no tax on tips, that is so huge for people. No idea. You have no idea. Oh, the overtime. I forgot about no taxes on overtime. No taxes on overtime. No taxes on tips in particular. See, that was never an issue years ago because most tips were in cash. Now it's mostly digital. Okay? I mean, how often do you tip in cash? There's only a handful of times I tip in cash. And those of you that go on the cruise, you're not required to do this. But, you have a room steward, you have kind of, that takes care of you in your cabin. I always tip them at the beginning of the cruise. Everybody tips them, but they usually tip them at the end of the cruise. I tip them at the beginning of the cruise. They take extra good care of you, okay? And a little bit of money goes a long way with those guys. Just a little tip, but that I tip that in cash. But all my other tipping is not cash. You go to a restaurant, you tip, it's not cash. You pay with your debit card or Apple Pay. And so they're all on they're not under the table anymore. And most people that earn tips today, because of the age of a lot of tip workers, don't know another way. But they know how much they're paying in taxes on the tips. And again, it's not just the tip workers. The employer has to pay part of that tax too. So it's a big tax break for them. So Nevada, even though it's the one battleground state, according to her internal polling, according to Mark Halperin, that she's not in trouble in, but I wouldn't be so sure that she's not in trouble there, because the no taxes on tips would have a lot of influence among the service employees that work in Nevada, in Las Vegas in particular. And there's no way that they don't know about this, and that no tax on tips has to be the talk of everyone who's part of the tip economy. Has to be. Let me finish up with this. I'll rewind a little bit. This is Mark Halperin, and he has access to Kamala and the Democrats' internal polling. That's what he's talking about here.
Danger of losing. I would say Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. I'm not saying she'll lose all 6, but she's in danger. The only one that the Democrats say she's not in danger of losing is the one I never say the name of because I can't pronounce it. But it's where Las Vegas is, right? You guys agree with me? She could lose any of those 6, right? I mean, she could lose all 7, but Democrats will tell you they're worried about those 6. They're less worried about the 7th. Yeah. I don't know any Trump person who says they're worried about losing any of the 7. They don't know that. They don't necessarily think they're the favorite in Michigan and Wisconsin, but they're not worried about losing them. Right. There's not. You don't hear from them, oh my goodness. What you hear is we're moving up. What the 3 of us are hearing, we're moving up in those 2. We're going to win. We're going to win the 3 Sunbelt states, and we're stronger in Pennsylvania than she is. That to me, if the whole thing's about the Electoral College, you take any of the Rust Belt states away from her, it's very difficult for her to win. Very difficult. It's not mathematically impossible, but it probably won't happen if she loses any of them. Now, she can replace Pennsylvania with either Georgia, North Carolina, and then one other of the Sunbelt states.
Nevada. Yep.
Well, any of them. If she wins, if she loses Pennsylvania and she wins either Georgia or North Carolina, then she just needs one of the other 3. And that's not impossible. But what I'm telling you today is things are not moving right for her. And if you think today's interviews are going to fix it, then you're optimistic about her performance in it.
Okay, so in those interviews, we know this was before those interviews. They were a disaster and didn't help. They hurt her, really. They all hurt her because they were so weak. All right, we're going to take our first break of the 3rd hour. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back.
Don't sit on the sidelines. Get in on the action. Call the Steve Kane Show live on air now. 888-GO-KANE-1. This is the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Hey, it's Scott with a quick reminder that the greatest hits of the 60s and 70s are back on the radio right after 10 a.m. this morning. Check it out on South Florida's True Oldies channel right here.
You want to live longer and feel better, and you can, with a personalized wellness roadmap to guide this next chapter of your life. You owe it to yourself. Amrit Ocean Resort is now open on Singer Island, a next-generation luxury wellness resort merging Eastern principles and Western luxury. Integrated health offerings.
Questions of Kamala yesterday. Howard Stern, he's a weak guy.
Take a few days to let the experts at Amrit guide you with services including pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, red light therapy, and dry flotation meditation. Fine dining is available at the oceanfront restaurant Tula, unlike anything else in Palm Beach County. Experience their 4-story wellness spa with endless treatments designed to detox and relax. Explore all available offers at amritocean.com. That's AMRIT ocean.com.
Have you put off buying new tires because you thought they were too expensive? Find friendly prices at Friendly Tire and Margate on both new and used tires. New tires as low as $70 a tire. That's out the door and on the road because Friendly Tire doesn't charge you to balance the tire.
Now, guys, I'm putting in the chat a link to, hold on. ActicFox, who you see in the chat all the time. She has an Etsy shop. She's sponsoring my program. I have the phone number up there, which is useless. But if you guys could click Arctic's Etsy shop, there's some great prices there. And, of course, great... Oh, hold on, that's the wrong one. Give me a minute. Hold on, guys.
Medicare recipients, listen up. Open enrollment is the only time of year you can make changes to your existing Medicare plan.
Won't let me pull up the link. I'm going to have to do it on tomorrow's show. ActicFox, sorry, I have to do it on tomorrow's show.
954-753-8080. 954-753-8080. That's 954-753-8080.
I don't have time to pull up the link now. All right, and of course, I want to remind you of the free doorbell camera offer from Sloman's. Listen up, I'm going to give you their number in just a moment, okay? And Sloman's, they're going to give you a free doorbell camera that connects directly to your smartphone with the installation of your Sloman's Shield. That's right. They're also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. Sloman's is going to give you an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts for the windows and the doors, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, and a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Give them a call, toll free, 1-833-283-5050. 1-833-283-5050. That's 1-833-283-5050. Take advantage of that deal. It's a great offer, and of course will make you safer and secure in your home. All right, we are back, and as I say, we are here live the day after the hurricane. Everything working at the radio station except our phones, because the phone company, like, well, a lot of other people in Florida, is without power. And those of you that have been calling in and leaving voicemail messages even, I'm sorry, we can't take your calls, but hopefully they'll have their power restored today, and tomorrow is open phones. Hopefully we'll be able to take calls tomorrow. If not, we'll just keep on trucking. So it's not a problem. I mean, we've had weeks when we didn't have phones at radio stations before because of technical issues, and we got through it fine. It's fine. I'm really enjoying not having the phone calls today, quite honestly. It's a little more relaxing of a show for me today, not being stressed out by some of these callers. All right, so Trump had 2 events yesterday, and they were great. And in Pennsylvania, in Reading, Pennsylvania, he went after Howard Stern and Whoopi Goldberg, and he really called them out. And, you know, I'm disappointed in both of them. I used to be, and I think a lot of people are, I used to be a big fan of both of them. I never really listened to Howard Stern's show because he was always on, when he was on the radio, was on when I was on the air. But I had a lot of respect for what he did. I mean, what he did was really amazing. You know, he went up against every legendary FM morning zoo show in every market he was in and ran them off. I mean, that's insane that somebody did. I mean, what he did was amazing. But he's not the same man. He's an old lady now. He is such a wimpy guy. His movie, Private Parts, when that came out, that was such a huge movie. People used to have so much respect for him. I didn't have respect for all the sex and perversions. You go in these markets and you go up against these morning zoo FM shows and you're beating them. That's not easy to do. Those guys are like landmarks and legends in their markets. You know, it's amazing what he did. Much more, what he did back then when he was relevant was a greater success in the radio business than Rush. And a lot of people don't understand that, but it's true. And I love the great late Rush Limbaugh, but Rush was on from noon to 3. There was really no competition like Stern was going up against. Okay? Do you understand the difference between noon and 3 and these morning zoo thing? I mean, that's a big difference. But he's changed. He's a wimp. He's now Pig Vomit from the movie. He's become Pig Vomit. And he's just a terrible person. And he did this interview with Kamala. Was all. So, and Whoopi Goldberg used to be a funny person. She really was. And like anybody else, almost anybody, there's been a couple of exceptions, but like most everybody else that goes on The View is a poison place. And whoever goes on The View becomes a poison person who just becomes very vile and very nasty and arrogant and self-destructive and everything else. So at the Reading, Pennsylvania rally last night, Trump talked about both Howard Stern and Whoopi. He really took Whoopi out to the woodshed. I mean, he really exposed her, but I'll play the part about Stern, too.
Questions of Kamala yesterday. Howard Stern, he's a weak guy. He's weak. He's going, what about, It was so ridiculous. Even she was embarrassed. It was like softball. But all of them. Howard, I knew him very well. I was on the show many times. I used to think he was good. Then I dropped him. And I dropped him like a dog. And his ratings are very challenged. Very challenged. But I watched the questions. I watched that stupid View where you have these...
Okay, now before we get... So, it's the thing is, if you go back and you... I never read the book Private Parts. I'm certainly not going to read it now. But in the movie, he really had a thing for Imus, right? Remember Imus in that movie? Hated him, was very nasty and arrogant. And he's really become what the portrayal of Don Imus in that movie... I did not know Don Imus, but I knew people that did, and he was one of the from people that have talked and have worked for him. He was very nasty. That he was an accurate portrayal in that movie. I don't know. I didn't know the guy, but he hated Don Imus, and you could see it in his movie Howard Stern. And now he's become that character, some old crotchety guy, getting by on the coattails of his former glory and successes, and he's embarrassing himself because of how girly he's become. All right, so then he goes on. Then President Trump talks about Whoopi, and he tells really an amazing story about him and Whoopi Goldberg.
Very challenged, but I watched the questions. I watched that stupid View where you have these really dumb people. Whoopi Goldberg said, would you participate in a movie? She made some movie on basketball. This was before I ran for politics. She said, oh, you're so great. If you ever ran for president, you'd win. This is Whoopi Goldberg. You don't hear that? She said, I'm making a movie. Would you be in it? I said, in what capacity? Just a walk-on. You're so great. Would you do I did a walk-on for Whoopi Goldberg. Now she says, I refuse to mention his name. You know what? Politics can do strange things to demented people. Now, I've hired Whoopi to work for me as a comedian before.
Okay, now the thing about hiring, a lot these comedians, even famous ones, they do private corporate events, or maybe in Trump's case, she played at one of his resorts. I don't know. Now this part was pretty devastating to her, and she is so self-important, so angry, so sick and twisted. There's no way that Whoopi does not respond to this.
Now, I've hired Whoopi to work for me as a comedian before this stuff, and a long time ago. And I went, and, I'm not particularly shy about what I hear. Her mouth was so foul. Every word out of her mouth was like the F word, this. I was with a group of people, like sort of nice people, and we had to leave. She was so filthy dirty, disgusting. Half the place left. I said I'd never hire her again, but she was so dirty. Every word was filthy dirty, and I left. And then I see her sitting about, Whoopi, oh, what a loser she is.
Yeah, she won't say his name, but she'll say these vile things in the F word. Now we know why she doesn't like him. It's not just that he's a Republican and ran for president. It's that he stopped hiring her in those whatever he was hiring her to do. Wouldn't hire her again. That's what it's about. She probably came to him expecting, she probably had some regular thing, expecting it. He didn't do it. And he, like he does, he probably told her why, and that was the end of that. Now, if you're in the state of Florida and you've been impacted by this hurricane, I don't see how everyone's been impacted by it. No matter where you are in the state of Florida, if you need roof work done, whether it's repairs or replacement, call Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting and Roofing. He's been with us for years here on the Steve Kane Show. He helped many of our listeners after the last hurricane. His response time is fast. He does incredible work. He's a great MAGA guy, and he will never sell you a roof you do not need. Also, Tom is not just a roofer. He's a licensed general contractor, and as a contractor, Florida law allows Tom Laporta to deal directly with your insurance company on the cost of the repair or replacement of your roof, which speeds things up a lot. He works on every type of structure and of any size, a small single-family home, commercial properties, condos, apartment buildings. And by the way, if you've got a condo community or an apartment community, it has one building or 150 buildings, he can handle the job of any size. Municipal buildings, churches, schools, he does it all. And this number I'm going to give you rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. That's 954-604-4602. For Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting and Roofing. No matter where you are in Florida, Tom can help. Make sure you mention that I told you about him, and he'll put you to the front of the line because, you know, guys like him, their phones will be ringing a lot. But make sure you tell him I sent you, all right? We'll be right back.
Making morning radio great again. It's the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig.
Paul, I wish I would take Rush Limbaugh's time slot nationally, too. Are you kidding? I would be much better than those guys.
Services pot.
Oh, a different FEMA pot. But it's a FEMA pot.
Yes, but
yes or no?
What you are accusing Joe Biden of is actually the thing that Donald Trump did in 2019. Ooh. That's what happened. And he was the one who moved money out of...
Service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. Listen to the PBKC Picks Live podcast every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. It's showtime at PBKC. Get your tickets today for paddock dinner shows, including the Pure Zeppelin Experience this Friday night, October 11th, plus Let It Be November 8th and Petty Nicks November 22nd. And don't miss comedian Jimmy Fallon for 2 shows November 15th and 16th. The paddock is also your best bet for OTB action and football Sundays. For more info, go to pbkennelclub.com.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. I just want to say thank you for Dr. Appleton because I'm from Orlando. It took 3 hours to go down there. It took my 90-year-old mom. My mom walked straighter than she ever walked in her life. And I just want to say thank you.
point, Mike, that I would make, especially it came through on the briefing from the federal experts, it's really important that we think about the language that we're using.
That's amazing. Thank you. Call Dr. Appleton and say bye-bye to your pain, too. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. Online, AppletonCairo.com. Brian Craig here. If you're a homeowner, business owner, or with a homeowners association, your roof is all compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting. With a AAA credit rating and bonded up to $10 million, Laporta Contracting doesn't need a large deposit like those other contractors do. Typical deposits other contractors want are one-third of the contract. If your job is $30,000, that's a $10,000 deposit. If your job is $300,000, that's $100,000. What are they doing with your money? Typically, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to get a permit, and HOAs, much longer. If they need money for the materials, they don't have credit with the suppliers, and that spells bad news for the homeowner or HOA. Tom Laporta is honest, knowledgeable, and reliable, and he'll never sell you a roof you don't need. Laporta Contracting has been in the roofing and contracting business since 1988, and his services cover the east and west coast of Florida and everywhere in between. Tom Laporta can handle any type of roofing job too. Residential roofing and repair, commercial roofs, schools, municipal buildings, office buildings, emergency repairs. If it's roofing, Tom Laporta can do it. Call Tom Laporta right now on his cell phone, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, LaportaContracting.com.
Hey, my true oldies listeners, John Tesh here with some intelligence for your retirement this time. When you're looking for a retirement advisor, you know trust and experience are two big qualities to look for. And as it turns out, my friend Jupiter Joe Thomas possesses both of these. Whether you're in retirement or looking to retire, I want you to give local expert Joe Thomas a call. Here's the number, 561-743-0999. Or, even simpler, you can go to JupiterJoe.com. Mention my name, John Tesh. You'll receive a free copy of Joe's book, Retirement Know-It-All. Great book. Call 561-743-0999. Or remember, go to JupiterJoe.com. That's JupiterJoe.com.
Mike Lindell is offering wholesale pricing for Christmas. The standard MyPillow, just $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. That's right, just $14.88. And free shipping on orders over $75. So go to MyPillow.com right now and use our promo code Kane at checkout, K-A-N-E, and get the standard MyPillow for just $14.88, the lowest price ever. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane.
Do you suffer from neuropathy? I did, until I went to Lighthouse Medical Center in Pompano. Numbness, pain, burning, tingling in my hands and feet, muscle weakness, loss of balance, muscle twitching, have all but disappeared. Say goodbye to your neuropathy symptoms. Call Lighthouse Medical Center for a free consultation. 754-222-6642.
Now, back to the Steve Kane Show with Brian Craig, celebrating 47 years on the air.
All right, we are back. Coming up on 35 minutes after the hour. It is Thursday, October the 10th, the morning after the hurricane, and we are here live, okay? And everything works but our phones. I just checked, and still, since before 6 a.m., the phones have been ringing off the hook. The phones are done by the internet. So even though the phone company is not working because their power is out from Milton, I can see that people are calling. It's just nonstop. People have been calling since before we went on the air today. I appreciate that. I wish I could take your calls. Hopefully they'll have them working tomorrow, and we'll be able to take the calls tomorrow. If not, well, we'll still do the show. We'll do the show without calls if we have to. Although tomorrow's Friday, that it's open phones, open Mag and Mike Friday. I hope they're back. Did you guys hear Kamala Harris call into the Weather Channel yesterday? I was flipping back and forth between the local news Weather Channel and Fox, and I was also watching the local news in Tampa and Fort Myers too. And the Weather Channel, which has a history of being liberal, had Kamala call in, and with her stupidity and her arrogance, she called in and she starts telling these meteorologists what to do. And the meteorologists that are on the Weather Channel and these things, they're not just weathermen. These are PhDs that have doctorates in meteorology, and but she lectured them. Listen to this. This is Kamala. I couldn't believe when I saw this yesterday. This is Kamala calling into the Weather Channel to tell these PhD meteorologists about how to speak on the air about hurricanes.
The other point, Mike, that I would make, especially came through on the briefing from the federal experts, it's really important that we think about the language that we're using to talk about what we are predicting. Because, for example, it has moved from time to time from a Category 5 to a Category 4. It's important that we not emphasize that downgrading has happened because, in fact, the difference between Category 5 and Category 4 in terms of the danger and the damage is pretty much the same.
Okay. I love how she's lecturing these meteorologists. What does she know? What is that, the Zafir-Simpson scale, whatever they call it? What she says is insane. There's no difference between Category 4 and 5. Now, when you get to the difference between when a 4 becomes a 5, if I remember correctly, a 4 goes up to 129 miles an hour. 130 miles an hour is a Category 5, if my memory serves. Maybe I can ask Kamala, since she seems to be the expert. And when you go from the 129 to 130 mile an hour sustained winds, and it's now a Category 5, at that point there's not a difference. But a Category 5 is the highest one. So a Category 5 goes from let me check. Let me look online, make sure I don't get it right. Yeah, 130 is 4. A 5 is a Category 4 is 130 to 156. And a Category 5 is when you get to 157. Okay, what I did was a 3 to 4. She said there's no difference between a 4 and a 5. There's no difference when you go from 156 to 157 miles per hour. That's right, it's only 1 mile an hour difference, right? You're 156 miles an hour, you got a Category 4. You get to 157, you have a Category 5. But what Birdbrain doesn't know is that Category 5 is the highest category. So it's 157 to infinity. And when, and it is not unusual, here in Florida, when you're in a hurricane area, and, you hear, and again, I am not a meteorologist, and I am not giving advice on what you should do, but I'm talking about me. If I hear Category 1, I might not put my shutters up for a Category 1. I probably will, but I might not. That's nothing. Category 3, you get your supplies. Category 4, you got everything going on. You got the gas, you got your supplies, you got your food, you got all the shutters, you got everything going on. When people hear Category 5, that's like, can I get out of the state? Can I leave? Like even that idiot Ray Nagin, the mayor of New Orleans during Katrina, who was a disaster and responsible for so much of what happened after. Remember, the levees broke after the hurricane, and that's what caused so much of the damage, that idiot Ray Nagin. But I remember when Ray Nagin, I watched it live, when Ray Nagin came out and he said Katrina is going to hit New Orleans as a Category 5, you could hear a pin drop in the room. People in hurricane areas, Category 5, that's like that's an extinction level event in people's minds. Most people think that they good chance they're not going to survive a Category 5. So I don't know what the heck she's talking about. But, she got briefed, and they told her to say this so she could sound smart for a minute. And for her to reprimand, really, she was reprimanding these. She probably wasn't even watching them, but she wanted to come off like she was an authority. Total poser. And I was talking earlier, there's this this girl that works for Turning Point. She says these hurricanes have given us a week to know what it would be like to have Kamala as president, these 2 hurricanes. We have a week, and we know what it is. Spin, inaction, do nothing, lie, and pretend to be a victim while everyone's suffering. And you got to wonder, why is it that Kamala Harris has done what she's done this week? Absolutely nothing to help anyone in these hurricane-hit areas, Florida or North Carolina. try to portray herself as a victim. Ron DeSantis won't take her calls. Complete lie. That she's been very happy to forward. Probably her campaign probably coordinated it with NBC. And what possessed her to call the Weather Channel and lecture the veteran meteorologists that are there? You know what? She's stupid. And because she's a liberal woman, okay, from San Francisco, that's what she's comfortable with. She doesn't have to do anything and being a victim. That's just how she's gotten through life and her career, and it's scary. There's serious things out there, and what we've seen from her is nothing but politics and an attempted spin. And this whole false bio that I was a prosecutor, I prosecuted this, I did that. We've seen her in action this week. Is there anyone that has any doubt that she's done nothing in her legal career when you've seen the inaction that she's done here? It really is bizarre to me when she has the ability to take charge, or at least appear to take charge, because she's the vice president, and she doesn't do it because in her entire political career, she has not had to do anything. She's just gotten by because she said liberal things. She's not white, and she's a woman. So she's gotten in the men that's helped her along the way too, like Willie Brown. But she's never had to do anything. She doesn't know how. And she thinks she looks good with all these things. She thinks she's an accomplished woman. She doesn't understand that she's a complete do-nothing. Now, I want to talk about Dr. Appleton and his laser wave pain treatment. Appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays with Dr. Appleton, okay? And his laser wave pain treatment works. He's rid me of pain 5 times. 5 times. And the pains have not returned. Each of the times he treated me, I've had 2 treatments. Now, that's my experience. Yours, maybe you'll need, I don't know. But he's treated me 5 times, different types of pain, and the pain's all gone. Many of them I suffer from for years, and none of the pains have returned. It's absolutely amazing. The laser wave pain treatment with Dr. Appleton works on every pain I've ever heard of. Sciatica, spinal stenosis, fibromyalgia, plantar fasciitis, rotary tears, herniated disc, acute pain, chronic pain, arthritis, bursitis. It goes on. If there's a pain you've heard of, the laser wave pain treatment, as far as I know, works on it, because I've not heard of any pains beyond the ones that Dr. Appleton gave me a list of. It works. You've heard many of our listeners in our commercials. They have called in on their own, okay, to share their experiences, and we've taken those calls and turned them into commercials. But those were random, spontaneous calls from listeners randomly calling us on the air to share their experience with Dr. Appleton. It works. It's amazing. Stop living in pain. Pain is not a part of the aging process, okay? Dr. Appleton's number is 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. That's 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. Give Dr. Appleton a call and say bye-bye to your pain. All right, we'll take our last break of the day and be right back.
Hard Truth. Delivered morning 6 to 9 right here on The Steve Kane Show.
Oh, they're doing something with the phones. They're doing their test. Yeah, they're trying to do it. It'd be my luck. It'd come on right at 9. But they're working on them.
And it looks like it's trying to.
Yeah, they're cycling through something.
Yeah, it's the first time. Oh.
Did you see it one? No? No, they're not working yet. No. No.
They're probably going to restart it.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense.
You think the phone company would have generators? All right, we're back 47 minutes after the hour. I can see the phone company are working on the phones because during the break I could tell they were flashing on and off and doing some things, but everything's working. The power company, the electricity is down at the phone company. That's why we don't have phones today. But you know, obviously this hurricane was really bad, and up in Tampa and up in those areas, a lot of problems. But hurricanes, when we have hurricanes in Florida, although this was a very bad one, I mean, getting tornadoes in areas that weren't in the cone, Martin County, Palm Beach, here in Welling, I mean, it's insane. Never seen that before. But the state is, we don't lose power as much as we used to, and we don't run out of gas. Because what used to happen, the reason you lose power are trees fall on the power lines and knock the power lines down. Now, obviously, this was a big storm and a lot of power lines got down, but Rick Scott, who's one of our senators, when he was governor, he did a couple of things that the process is still continuing throughout the state of Florida. He did two things. After hurricanes in the past, when and power would be out and everything, there'd be gasoline shortages. And it was very, very difficult. And the reason that was is because the gas stations didn't have power either. And Rick Scott, when he was the governor before DeSantis, okay? Everybody thinks Ron DeSantis just made Florida what it is. He does very good. I don't want to take anything away from him during these hurricanes. But what Rick Scott did, now all the gas stations have generators to run the pumps. So the reason we would have gas shortages, you couldn't pump the gas. Now they have generators so they can pump the gas, which is great. So you don't have, and Rick Scott did that. The other thing that a lot of people don't know, because they've been doing this, I don't know, for about 10 years now, and it's been a long process, but Rick Scott started doing this, and the process is still going on throughout the state with the power lines. Two things. They've been replacing for the last 10 years the wooden power lines with concrete power lines throughout the entire state of Florida. And the reason we have electricity as much as we do today, even though it's out on our phone system, everything else is going on, is because the concrete poles don't get knocked down as much as the wooden ones did. That's Rick Scott did. That's amazing. The other thing he did, which is an ongoing process, is for some reason, people plant high trees around all the power lines and then they fall on the power lines. They've been cutting down trees and trimming them around power lines for the last 10 years too. They never used to do that. And that's why, and because of all those things, the aftermath of the hurricanes is not as bad as it used to be 10 or 15 years ago. Because I remember when we had that year of Wilma, that's when we were on the AM station. We were off the air for 2 weeks. They had no power. And actually, a friend of ours loaned the radio station a generator to get us back on the air. You know, can you imagine? But we don't lose power. We don't run out of gas like we used to, and as bad. And this one's bad. There's going to be a lot of tragedy and everything else we're going to hear about today and throughout the weekend and the next weeks. And I don't want to trivialize it, but the aftermath of hurricanes is not nearly as bad in Florida as it used to be. When I came in today, and because it was dark, I'm driving on the road. It's like 5 a.m. I'm going through Wellington on 441, and not only were the lights just a lot of electricity out because the lights were out on the side of the road, but the stoplights were out at a lot of major intersections when I came in this morning, but still a lot of power on. I was totally expecting the power to be out here at the radio station because of all those tornadoes that I was watching on the news yesterday afternoon in Palm Beach Gardens. And I've seen a lot of video and photographs on the internet of the houses in Wellington and Palm Beach Gardens that got hit. To have hurricanes always bring tornadoes, but not outside the cone. Not outside the cone. The tornadoes are with the hurricane, and you see them sometimes, and they tear down trees. They do a lot of damage, but not this far away. We are very far away from the hurricane in this part of Florida, and people have died in areas outside the cone. And those of you that have lived in Florida a long time, all you look for, is, am I in the cone? Am I in the cone? Oh, man, if it moves a little further this way, I'm going to be in the cone. And when it moves the other way and you're further out of the cone, it's like a relief, because when you're not in the cone, you feel like you're totally immune. And what happens, the way the cone gets formed is they have all those models, the spaghetti models. And I told you guys, and I think I've been vindicated on this, watch the European model, and the European model looks like it was pretty accurate. But some of them aren't. And the cone is formed by a lot, they have to include all of them, including these outliers. And the cone was so wide this time because there was this Canadian model on the south. And I was totally wrong. I was not expecting anything we got here in Palm Beach County from this storm. I have never seen damage like this in communities that are outside of the cone. Because what happens when you're outside of the cone, which means no hurricane strength winds, you tell yourself, well, we're going to have tropical storm. Even I was talking to some callers yesterday. We were joking about it. We're outside the cone. We're totally relieved. But we know we're going to have tropical storm force winds. But you can have that on any Sunday afternoon in Florida. So we're like, if you're a Floridian, tropical storm force winds, that's nothing. I'm not even going to bring in the lawn furniture for that, is the attitude we have. And I was talking earlier when I saw Steve Weigel 2 days ago, I thought he was nuts. Okay, Steve Weigel said in Palm Beach and Broward, even though we're out of the cone, we're on the south of the storm, we could have some of the worst winds. And I thought that was crazy. And Steve Weigel was right. No doubt about it. Steve Weigel was right. I mean, I've never seen this before. And when I was watching yesterday afternoon, and in Port St. Lucie, where they had just terrible destruction of these big buildings up there, I was like, what is going on? And then I'm watching the Palm Beach news stations, flipping through them, and I'm seeing these houses in Wellington that got hit. It's really frightening. So it's a big lesson. Even I've been through more hurricanes. If I tried to list all the hurricanes, I wouldn't be able to do it. I've been through so many hurricanes. I've lived here almost my whole life. Even I wasn't taking this one serious enough. And I'll tell you this, even when I'm not in the cone, I'm probably going to be putting my shutters up in the future, at least some of them, because this one was a bad one. And the thing about Kamala, with this thing with DeSantis, and DeSantis just really, I'm not going to play it again. I played it earlier, but he really exposed her last night and tore her down on Brett Baer over this. He said she's not even in the chain of command. Why would I call her? It makes no sense. They're trying to float this thing that he's not calling her because she's a woman. No, she's not in the chain of command. The vice president can do nothing. Not with the system. I mean, she could come here and, I guess, help and raise some money or something, but she's picked the wrong person to try to use as a victimhood scapegoat, because Ron DeSantis is going to be a big hero today and for the next couple of weeks with all this devastation. I mean, if you remember, with all his problems, he's so great during these hurricanes. When that bridge got knocked out to Sanibel is one of the beautiful islands out there in the Gulf, and he got that bridge rebuilt like, boom, like that. No one had seen anything like that fast before. It was amazing. He is so competent in these disasters. And I get so angry at him when I see how great he's doing right now, because why did he have to run against Trump? It was his wife got him worked up, whispered in his ear, and got her, and she got worked up by the Bushes. He's going to lose support. He's going to go to jail. They got the mugshot. He's getting arrested. He's going to go to prison. He's going to be sentenced to prison. He's going to be under house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. It's your time. You got to do it. And he took some very bad advice, and he screwed up maybe his entire life. But there's still, I mean, if he could get Trump to forgive him publicly and stand behind him in the future, he might be back. I mean, he is so good and so competent. When you see DeSantis on TV with these hurricanes, you don't have a worry in the world, because you can trust him. It's not just rhetoric, and he has a record of success after the hurricanes. So, that's that. Now, I want to remind you guys, listen, if you're in the state of Florida and you need roof replacement or roof repair, you want to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. He's been with us here for years on the program. He's a good MAGA guy. He basically rebuilt Steve's house, not just the roof, because Steve had a lot of other damage. But when it comes to hurricanes, Tom Laporta's response time is fast. I was amazed when we had those hurricanes on the Gulf, the one I was talking about with when Sanibel got hit. We had listeners over in that area that called Tom Laporta. He called them right back, and he was there. And he took care of everything for them, and he'll do the same for you. Tom works on any type of structure, both residential and commercial, and he can handle a small job or a job of any size. If you got a community with 200 buildings in it, he can handle it. Or if you got a small single-family home, he can handle that too. He also works on municipal buildings, government buildings, schools, churches. He was just involved in a major restoration of a beautiful church here in Florida, did the roof. But he's a good MAGA guy. He will never sell you a roof you do not need. He'll take good care of you. Now, this number rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone. Give him a call, 954-604-4602. Make sure you tell him you heard about him on the Steve Kane Show, okay? You tell him you heard about him on the radio. He is going to take extra good care of you, okay? And these roofers, they get a lot of calls, but if you're one of our listeners, you're going to go to the front of the line, okay? 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And if you missed that number, that's his cell phone. Call or text. You should call, but you can text too. I'll be giving it out tomorrow as well. But leave him a message. He will call you back. 954-604-4602. All right, now, we hope tomorrow the phones will be back, and it will be open phone. Steve will be back with us tomorrow. But tomorrow will be open phone Friday, open MAGA Mike Friday, and there's a lot going on to cover. I only covered some of the things today because I didn't want to get too political the day after a hurricane when people have suffered so much. But will be, the Trump overtaking Kamala in both Michigan and Wisconsin, now over 300 in the Electoral College vote count, according to Polymarket and RealClearPolitics, is huge beyond imagination. Trump is now leading in 6 of the 7 battleground states. Who would have thought? And that's with the whole mainstream media working against him. That's with them arresting him. That's with the assassination attempts. That's with the lawsuits. That's with all this lawfare garbage. And still, he's leading in 6 of the 7 battleground states. Who would have thought that was possible? Well, it is the Trump miracle. All right, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. On the radio since 1977, celebrating 47 years on the radio. My name is Brian Craig. Steve will be back with us tomorrow, and we got a lot to... And then tomorrow I'm going to bring up that story about my daughter in the lift because I want to get some feedback from you guys on that. If anybody's ever had that happen, a very dangerous thing happened with my daughter in lift. I talked about earlier in the show, and I very much want to take calls on that when our phones are back. All right, take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning, Friday at 6 a.m. All right, guys. Hey, listen, make sure you subscribe if you're new, and if you're already subbed, like the video. All right? I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Take care.